Coming up on this episode of the Hitstreak.
Now you're talking about 20 years of Justin being Justin and JC being NSYNC and Joey being NSYNC and me being NSYNC and Lance being NSYNC. So you get us back together and now you've kind of got, oh, I have to be Chris from NSYNC again. You know, I'm not NSYNC anymore. I'm Chris from NSYNC. And pulling that all together and making that work right.
A smile can do more than brighten a face. It can rebuild a life. Smiles for Recovery is a nonprofit restoring confidence and dignity for individuals recovering from substance use by providing free, compassionate dental care. Addiction often causes serious dental damage, leading to pain, isolation, and lost opportunities. Smiles for Recovery changes that. Through a growing network of volunteer dental professionals, they offer cleanings, extractions, and full restorations, empowering people to re-enter the workforce, reconnect with loved ones, and literally rebuild their lives. Every single smile tells a story of healing, strength, and second chances. You can be a part of that story. Whether you're a dentist, a donor, or someone who believes in second chances, your support changes lives. Visit smilesforrecovery.org to learn more and get involved. Together, we're restoring smiles and renewing lives. Whoa. Check this out. Some of the world's biggest success stories started with nothing. Just grit, hustle, and a story worth hearing. So if you've clawed your way up, if you've built something out of nothing, if you've got a story that people need to hear, folks, this is your shot. The Hitstreak isn't just a podcast. It's a platform not just for top performers. It's also a platform that takes real stories from underdogs, builders, and dreamers, and it puts them on the map. Your story, your brand, your breakthrough. Apply now to be a guest. We'll put you in front of millions of viewers worldwide. You'll get pro-level content, high-level exposure, and a seat at the table with people who've been there and made it out. I'm not only looking for polished top performers. I'm looking for real stories from real people. If you've been through the fire and came out stronger, you belong on this show. Apply now. This is your moment. Email management@nickhyder.com or comment or DM the word Hitstreak to apply. The Hitstreak is where rags to riches stories have been told, and the next one could be yours. Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I'm extremely excited about the episode that we have today. These dudes need no introduction, so we're just going to get right into it. And I got to introduce my co-host today because he's a former Hitstreak guest, and it's his first time in the lab with me co-hosting today. He needs no introduction, so I'm just going to tell you who it is. It's good old Neil Orn. Neil.
You know what? First, I'm a guest on your podcast, and now you build me as a co-host here. But I will limit this interview. I am going to bring it down a notch or two, or else it's going to get out of control, okay? You understand who you brought into this studio, Nick?
I do. I'm very well aware. Very well aware.
It's just a warning at the beginning of the show.
Well, we want all of it.
Let's do it.
We want all of it. So, all right, check it out, folks. Neil and I are hanging out with somebody that needs no introduction, and he don't need a great introduction like some of our guests do. So we're just going to let you know, folks, he's the founding member of the supergroup NSYNC. Chris Kirkpatrick is in the lab. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. I felt a lot more special when before you said that I needed no introduction. But then when you said Neil needed no introduction, I was like, man, where does that leave me now? That's kind of like going back and...
There's a reason I don't need an introduction, because there's nothing to say about me.
There's a lot to say about you. I have a ton. In fact, we could do this whole interview just talking about things that I know about you, which would be great. But thanks for having me, though. This is cool. Was a little hard to find. Drove around for a minute, put some air in my tires. Almost had to refuel and gas. Circling around the area, but I found it.
I would have been given a lot to be at the gas station and look over and be like, is that Chris Kirkpatrick putting air in his tires? Yeah. That would have been, those people had a treat and they didn't even know it.
I usually don't consider it a treat. but I'll take it.
That's fantastic, man. So,
It's
Neil,
the way he was putting the air in his tires that made it a very unique stop, Nick. But we'll talk
No
about
hands.
that later.
no hands,
All feet.
no hands. So, well, your hands are assets now because, like, you know, I mean, the dance was massive for so long.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
could you imagine?
The Bye Bye Bye?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was crazy because, you know, here it is 25 years later, and we all got this email, and it was from Ryan Deadpool. And I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Deadpool was, since he came out, I was always a Spider-Man guy, but since Deadpool came out, I just loved Deadpool. I loved how he talked to the camera all the time, broke the third wall. And when they said, they want you to have this, or they want to have this in the movie, I was like, yes. And I don't care what the other guys say. Yes.
That's right.
But they put it in the movie. And now if you go on like Spotify or something and you look it up, it says Bye 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 from Deadpool 3 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it got such a resurgence. And then the dance went crazy on TikTok and the internet. And all these little kids are coming up, hey, you know the Deadpool dance? And I'm like, know it. I wrote it.
That's right.
But yeah, it was cool to get back in, you know, on that level real quick. So it was fun.
Well, I mean, hell, I can remember I was gosh, what was it, 99 when that track came out?
Yep.
As a matter of fact, the first time I was introduced to it was on an award show. I don't even remember which one it was, but it wasn't
MTV Awards with the video screens.
No, it wasn't even that. It was the one with the giant inflatable puppets behind you, like the.
Oh yeah. We paid so much for those things, and those were made by Sid and Marty Krofft.
Really?
Remember Sid and Marty Krofft? They're like HR Puffin stuff, all that stuff. So they did those, and we had these giant things made, and they were just up on these hooks, and they would play the beginning of Bye Bye Bye, I think, ding, 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 and they'd be sitting there, and then they would drop, and that was it. And we spent a budget on those crazy things. And then there was this crazy stuff that we had them in our tour book, and they were mad because we didn't get approved. I don't know, but it cost us a lot of money for those giant puppets that we used for 10 seconds.
Well, it was, the transition from the album that was before that to the No Strings Attached album. First of all, that song, like, I think it's one of the greatest produced tracks. Like, it still holds up.
Bye Bye Bye.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. That was everyone at Sharon Studios back in the day, which is no longer. I think it's still a studio in Sweden, but they changed it over or something. But that's the whole. It started with Dennis Pop, Max Martin, Christian London, all these guys, and it's almost like, I would say that studio is like the Kevin Bacon of movies. You know, there's always somebody that's come out of that tree, or what's his name, 49ers coach. There's always somebody that's coming out of that coaching tree. And, you know, with Dennis Pop, there's always somebody down there that, you know, Dr. Hook, whoever it is, that came out of that scenario and is still writing hits. They just had the formula. And when I always think about it, I'm always like, I think that these guys are left-brained because to write the hits like they wrote the hits, it was almost like, you know, it wasn't like going in somewhere and going, man, let's smoke some weed and write a song. You know, it was, hey, this is what works. Let's do this, 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 this. You go here. It only makes sense to go here, you know, because it is really kind of left-brained if you think about it. You listen to every song, you know, it's a verse, bridge, or verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, double chorus, bridge, double chorus out. Like that's almost, you could plug in almost every song because it's so analog, because it's so zeros and ones when you really think about it. And these guys just had the formula.
Well, the moment that the track, so my dad was in the music business. He had 30 years on Music Row. So I grew up in the country scene of it, and hearing all the demos and just watching all the things. I just got, like, Dad took a lot of pride in, like, making all the tracks big and fat and all that kind of stuff. And, like, when Bye 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 hit, it was just different. Yeah. It was just different. It's still, and again, it still holds up, like, today, like, big time.
Yeah. It's still, I mean, it's, you know, I do this Pop 2000 tour, and I do a bunch of our old songs, and, you know, they love all the songs. And every time I throw a new song in, they go crazy. But nothing compares to at the end when that, you know, it's just like you hear that. And I've done it with orchestras. Like I've been on this orchestra show too, where we'll go out and do like a couple hours with me, Jeff Timmons and Eric Michael Estrada from O-Town. And we do all these like old, you know, pop boy band kind of songs with an orchestra. And we do Bye 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 Lass and that one too. When you hear an actual orchestra playing, because when we do those too, I say, you know, this is how you write the songs. This is what you want to do when you write music. But instead you're either on a laptop or you're in a studio or whatever. And you're like, okay, right here, I want some strings. So you look up strings and you play it on a keyboard. There, I'm like, oh, that's a first fiddle. Sorry, I've been in Nashville too long. First violin, second violin, cello. You know, it's like you hear all the individual parts and man, I would have liked to change the cello. I love the sound of an oboe. I'd like a little more oboe there, or add that to it. So when you hear the whole orchestra with it, you're like, this is like the vision you have. This is the house you tried to build with cardboard. You know, it was this amazing brick house that you didn't even realize. And there it is with the orchestra.
I would like to point out how quiet I've been here because he immediately said he's just going to take over this whole thing. So I've been purposely quiet for a second here. The Pop 2000.
The fact that you have to purposely be quiet, like you have to think about it.
All right.
That's something in your brain with Neil Oren that goes through that. Okay, just don't talk. Okay, I think he's on a roll here. Don't say anything. Just don't. How hard is that for you? Is that like...
It's hard for me to listen to you
when you retire from football and you have to go watch a game. And you're like, is that why you don't go to the Super Bowl if you're playing?
I've never seen you this serious this long. That's what's hard for me right now. That's true. That is my problem right there. I'm like, who is this guy? How do you remember all those names?
That makes sense.
You
what names?
Literally pull up names from studios from 30 years ago.
Well, because it was the biggest.
I understand it was huge, but I still don't remember.
But that was, you know, those were the times. I can tell you who worked at our record label when we were just signed to BMG Areola in Munich, Germany. You know, it was like, you remember, and those were the times too. Like we started out over in Europe and it was just 5 idiot kids that had a dream, worked really freaking hard and had a goal, you know, and we all loved to be around each other. We would find ourselves in stairwells. If we went into a bathroom that had a good acoustics, hey, come in here, and just go in to sing together because we loved singing together. We loved the harmonies. We loved everything we did. But those are the memorable times, and that's what really you all go back to. That's why when you hear music as an older person, I won't say old, but I'm old. But as an older person, you're always like, back in my day, it was so great. It wasn't great. No. There was still a lot of crap times. There was a lot of garbage going on, but you only remember the good times and you only remember what's great about them. So, you know, you go look back on those times, you remember those people, you remember those feelings, and you always wish you could go back there because you're not remembering, oh man, I felt like, you know, poop a couple times those mornings where I was out drinking all night or something and then had to work at 6 a.m. You don't remember that stuff.
The whole strategy was to start it out in Europe and get the whole formula together, right? Before you really started launching it.
No.
What was it?
The strategy was to be successful. And we tried everything. In fact, when we got discovered, we just went out and did it ourselves first. We went out and luckily Justin and JC were on the Mickey Mouse Club. So we had a lot of resources. We had a vocal coach who, you know, still to this day, she was from Nashville. And it was crazy because even though if you looked on paper back in the day, Lou Pearlman was the 6th member of NSYNC.
Right.
Robin Wiley was the 6th member of NSYNC. She was the one that arranged everything. And she did it with that Nashville flavor. Like you were saying, the production, the reason the production was so good on what we do is because it was almost like an older country song where, you know, the reason a lot of these country songs sound so big is because there's no part unsung. You're going to have the lead, you're going to have the third, you're going to have the fifth, you're going to have the octave of a lead, you're going to have a lower octave of a lead, you're going to have an octave of the third. You're going to have every part in there to make that wall of sound, and that's kind of what we did. And Robin was one of those people that just put it all together and was like, I know how you sing, I know how you sing, I know what you do, I know what you do. Let me arrange this, or she had some songs she wrote for us. She did a medley. We gave the Bee Gees a Lifetime Achievement Award overseas when we were, you know, just starting out touring over there. And we did this Bee Gees medley the afterwards, and the Bee Gees are, when it comes to the harmonies and the backgrounds, unbelievable. And regardless of what you think, like those guys, the way they could sing together, and they were brothers, so they could really blend well.
There's something special about the family dynamic.
Always. You look at all those. I mean, look at the Jonas Brothers. Look at the Moffats. Crazy as it sounds, up from Canada. A lot of these bands, when they're family, you hear it and you go, "Oh man, that you can't get that blend." But those songs and getting that blend with us was so different and just so meaningful. And Robin's the one that pulled all that together and said, "Listen, I know how this is supposed to work." And she actually taught us so much about music, which was great.
How upset were you when they found out that Robin had been turning off your microphone for all those years?
Well, they could hear it in the house. I just couldn't hear it in my ears because it was probably better that way.
Okay. It's something that, it's one of those questions. I've known you for so long, and I was so curious what you would say.
Yeah. If they knew that I really wasn't singing,
I get it.
In the house. Well, they tell me I was.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. They're like, "Man, you sounded great tonight." I'm like,
you had
that was the record.
You had one of the strong voices in the group, and and it's featured on a lot of the cuts. So I have to follow that up with that.
Whatever.
Well, so tell me a little bit more about the, you mentioned that you're doing the tour thing. I know that you've been doing that for a couple of years now, right? And dude, those things look wild, man. Those crowds look crazy.
It's so fun. I want to say there are some humbling times on it, and there's some things that happen, but I think when you enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, I don't care.
Right.
Like you never want to be that person that you're like, "Oh man, I was such a big fan. Why are you working in this grocery store now?" Or what are you, I always thought, because that's so humbling. And, we do shows sometimes where I'm like, "Oh my God, like this is what it is," but it is what it is. And the tour sells great. We do a lot of great venues. Every once in a while we'll have one that's not so great, but it's still, and they're fun and they're interesting. It's not, I can't tell you how many meet and greets and stuff I've done where I've told people, this tour is almost more fun than any tour I've ever done in my life. Cause, and I mean that, I don't mean that as production, and cause we had a really good producer, production manager on our tours that would make it fun. And every day we'd come in and it was a pizza eating contest today. It was a pig catching contest. It was always like something fun going on. But if you don't have that and you're doing like arenas or, these things, you go in and it's stale. It's same pipe and drape, same, entertainment center that you pull around with your TV or whatever it is, your same couches, and it becomes Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And you're like, you wonder after 2 months why people are like, "Man, I got to get off the road."
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired. Mine, I go in, they're like, "Oh, you're playing a fair today, playing a casino tomorrow, and then you've got this private gig at this guy's house or whatever, and today your dressing room is beautiful, and you got this. Tomorrow, you guys are all going to be crammed in this little area or whatever it is." And I mean, we had one show we played with, it was at a festival, and they really didn't have a backstage area, but they set up one of those just like white tent looking things on the grass, and they're like, "There's your room." And I'm like, where do I change? where do you relax? Where do you got to get warmed up. You got to get into it. But, but it's fun, it makes it interesting. It makes it so you wake up going, "I can't wait to go to work tomorrow."
Well, it's, even as an athlete, there's something about playing in the big 5,000 or 5-figure seat stadiums, but there was like my favorite place to play that I played was in Florence, Kentucky, because it was like 4,000 people, but they went nuts, dude. They went nuts, and they were still on top of you.
Was it minor league?
Yeah, minor league baseball.
Minor league guys are nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I think that's what spawned the Savannah Bananas. That idea of, here we are watching baseball, but there's so much more to it. It's a Predators game. It's this where you go in and you're like, "God, this is just so exciting." Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Cool, we're watching a game, but you got some guy running around looking, like a weenie or whatever. It's like all these things going on. Sausage, whatever it is. One didn't say you look
Fiddle,
like
violin, weenie, sausage.
He looked like a hot dog. But and it makes it exciting and it makes it different, and that's what Savannah Bananas did it. And they're like, man, let's make this fun.
Oh yeah.
And you see they had to move. They played the stadium.
Yeah, here.
I saw them the year before. They were at the minor league baseball field.
Yeah.
They had to play it 2 or 3 nights. And then they're like, man, let's just do the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And they did the stadium, had to shorten the one outfield, but nobody cares because
That's right.
you shorten the outfield, you're both hitting into that outfield, so it doesn't matter. But watching those guys make backflips when they catch, watching them doing their walkouts, doing their stuff, like, that's what's exciting, those smaller or more intimate kind of things. And we played stadiums. And I'll tell you, every show we did, I walked to the very last seat of the stadium and sat there and said, all right, the hard part about doing this is I got to make this guy feel like he's that person in the front row because we're not going to let anybody out. You don't just play for the first 10 rows. You play for everyone because everybody paid their hard-earned money to come out and see you. You don't just wave them off because they're not special in those first 2 rows or they didn't steal tickets from somebody or whatever it was. But doing that, you really start to realize how to make your show intimate on that grand scale. But when you play smaller places, it's so much easier. When you can look out, we played that place in Rhode Island. We just played a theater and it had a balcony, and you look up into the balcony and see people up there. It's just great.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, Neil, you've been knowing him for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Been knowing him for a long time.
Too long.
So there's an expiration
I've
date.
known him since he had a job.
He's still that long?
It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. I still have he's my emergency contact, my phone, just so if anything happens.
Which is really weird that I've changed my number twice since then.
And it keeps getting blocked, but that answers that question. What
Now we know.
Go, Nick.
Now we know.
I've known him for a while.
Well, again, it's, Chris, guys like you there's so many interviews and it's the same 10 to 15 questions over and over again. Now, on one hand, it's like, that's obviously what everybody is interested in, right? So but at the same time, it's like you feel like there's a greater responsibility or an opportunity to really
dig deep and try to find something different. Well, and then the worst is though, to me, sometimes people ask some good questions, and I was like, man, that I've only got that a couple times, or maybe very rarely, or you never got that. But the worst way to finish it or do whatever is when somebody always says, so what have you never been asked that you've all, something like that? Because you're like, oh man,
can't figure it out.
You can't figure it out, and you're asking me to figure it out. I'm like, I've probably answered everything at some point or another.
See, I find this fascinating because we never talk about all that stuff before. So I sit here listening to you tell your stories of doing their units and stuff like that, and you and I never talk about that.
You're like, wow.
So I'm kind of like, I'm sitting here as a viewer right now saying, this is fascinating. You know
can
what?
say fan.
I might treat him with a little more respect.
No, you won't.
These days.
Won't.
I don't know.
No such thing.
All my girls always knew him as Chris, know him as Chris. He's just Chris, right? Mm-hmm. But he became a super celebrity one time when he had Ariana Grande on FaceTime.
Oh, yeah.
And you put it in front of the girl. You remember that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he became Chris Kirkpatrick.
Yeah.
And it just changed everything about that. But it was amazing. But that's how he is. He's generous with everything he does. He wants to include as many people with everything he does as he possibly can. I find that fascinating about him. He's just so approachable to everyone. People will come up and, can I? And he's like, give me a phone. I got you. And why are you like that?
I think, you got to appreciate, who made you. I didn't go out and buy millions of records of my own. I wouldn't have. I'm like, I got one. I know what I sound like. I know what I sound like with the guys or whatever. But, it really is, as you can attest to too, and you can attest to, it's like the reason you are where you are is because people are interested in what you do. Yeah. And they like you and they like getting behind certain people. And that was tough too, because, here we were when we were an upstart band, when we started over in Europe, it was an uphill climb. I mean, it was like, especially because Backstreet was released right before us in Europe. And basically fans would come out to our shows and say, the only reason we're at your show is because the Backstreet Boys aren't here. And we had to take that all the time and be like, I get it. They're great too. And they're good at what they do and all great guys. We all have this crazy, we always say we're in this we all went to the same college, but in different fraternities.
Yeah.
And so we all have the same college experience, but as different fraternities kind of experience. And, you know, you get all these where you had to work so hard and then it all blows up. Everybody was supporting you and they're like, oh man, we want this to succeed. We want this to work out. And then you get up there for a little while and they're like, I'm getting a little tired of this. You know, Chris is kind of ugly, you know, or this and that. And they start to nitpick and try to knock you down. And it's understandable because it's just nature. You know, nobody wants to go up and be on top or be king of the world for so long. It's like you got to find flaws and you got to find difficulties and everything they do. But, you know, we just got lucky and we were great for a while and we're out there for a while. And then, you know, we all just kind of needed a break and we never said break's over.
Yeah.
It was kind of like break's over. I'm falling asleep.
It was hard enough working with one other person for a long period of time before you started getting on each other. For you guys to do it in that larger group, I think says a lot about you guys as individuals.
Oh, hold on a minute. That doesn't mean we don't get on each other's nerves.
Oh, I see.
I mean, if you would ask,
this is the stuff that Chris doesn't talk about.
If you would ask, I promise you, like if we did a quiz type of thing. If you asked all 5 of us who the most annoying was, I would say Joey, because Joey and I are really close and Joey just knows how to get on my nerves. But all 4 of them would say me, for sure.
I am so
annoying.
I get that.
I can be annoying. I can be, you know, hot-headed. I could just be, I think it's just because I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's no, oh, is Chris mad at me? You know. Like I'll say, I'm mad at you, you know, Kyle, or what was his name? Talladega Nights. Cal, I'm mad at you.
No. I only know Mike Honcho from Talladega Nights.
That was, but that, you know, that's what it is. It's like I got on their nerves all the time, but we were together, especially for 5-6 years. Yeah. It was 24 hours a day, 7 days, 8 days a week, you know, 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. It's like, even when you weren't together, you're together, you know? So there was a lot of arguing. There was a lot, but I think when you're brothers and we do care about each other so much, it's like, that's something that, hey, if we have a problem, I'll pull someone. Well, I always do it. Like if I have a problem with somebody, I'm like, come here, I got a problem with you. Let's get it out. Let's get it over with, whatever. And we were all pretty good about that. You know, it wasn't like we'd be sitting in an interview and, you know, start talking about something. So the new record drops. I'm like, yeah, it dropped like Joey singing the 3rd verse on that one song last night. So flat. You know, it was like, we don't air our laundry. We make jokes about it. I'm most guilty. You know, I make jokes all the time. But I do it out of fun. I think it always comes down to, I will make fun of all 4 of those guys. And they hate me for it, but I love it. But I will do it till the day I die. But if somebody else makes fun of them, I'm the first guy to jump up and throw a punch. You know, Absolutely. It's like I protect them. I do it out of love because I feel like the other 4 guys are way more talented than me, and all I got is to try to bring them down to my level. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do. But you know, for the most part, it's all we care about each other.
I can't think of what you tease Justin about though, because the other guys I can tell.
Oh man, there's a lot.
Okay, all right.
A lot of it I can't. I joke about it with him.
But keep it between you and him. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. No, I get it.
Especially with Justin, you know, it's like he's still out, you know, working and being out in the public eye. You know, it's not, you don't air anything.
No.
You know, I would never. Everything I always do, like if I have a magazine or something coming out where I did an interview about if I said something or did anything, I always run it by the other guys. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm doing this. Are you cool with this? I'll take it out or whatever. And I've always been like that. So
that's fantastic. Hi, folks. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and I just want to say a quick thank you for all of you, the millions of you tuning into the Hitstreak. If you have not already, subscribe to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Share your favorite episodes with your friends, your team, literally whoever needs a lift. We've built a worldwide audience of millions, and we're just getting started. Every episode, we're breaking down the playbook of top performers so that you can get to that next level too. We're literally getting the information from the people that have it to the people that need it by bringing on guests that everybody knows and some that not everybody knows yet. So again, thank you for being a part of this movement. Keep listening, Keep sharing and keep leveling up with the Hitstreak. How long have you been in Nashville, and why Nashville? Like, how'd you end up here out of all the places?
So we've been here almost 10 years. And I think I used to come up here writing all the time.
Okay.
You know, one of my closest friends on the planet, not Neil Orn, is my uncle Jason, and he was the best man in my wedding, and he lived up here. He lived with me in Orlando for a while, then moved back up here because he sings, and you know, he does a lot of demo work and DJs and does a lot of things. J Tunes is his DJ stuff, and I was really close to him, and he was always kind of baiting me with it, like, you should come up to Nashville. And I'm like, man, we always have a great time when we're in Nashville, you know. And at the time it was just me and my wife, and you know, one day I just told her, I was like, I loved Orlando. I loved Orlando because my mom and my sisters were there. And my dad moved down close to there now too. So my family was there, but I think I had a beautiful house. I had all this stuff, but I kept looking around, and I just say, like, is this where I want to die? Yeah. Like, is this all it is for me? Or do I want to travel? Do I want to go out, try different things? And I think maybe in the beginning it was like, let's try out Nashville, see what it's like. But I know from the minute we came up here, I think the first month we rented for like a year or two before we bought a house. I think for that year or two, every day my wife and I would look at each other like, are we being pranked right now? Are people really this nice? And
yeah.
You know, and it really, not to blow smoke, but it really, there's something to it. And what we were talking about earlier too is what kind of, you know, puts it all in a nutshell is if I'm downtown Nashville, or if I'm around even Brentwood, Franklin, wherever, and the local comes up to me, it's always so funny when a local comes up because they always say the same thing. It starts off with, so I know we're not supposed to do this, but, you know, and you're like, see, that's the mentality of it though. And to me, you know, like Neil said, I don't mind at all. I will always sign. I'll always take a picture. I think I'm really friendly. I hate if I see somebody coming up and they're real timid, I always try to make them feel okay. Like, listen, I'm not one of those people. Yeah. You know, don't worry about it, whatever. But, you know, when you have that feeling of, man, people are just really genuinely good and genuinely nice. And I think that's kind of like one of the things about Nashville that makes Nashville, that keeps it Nashville. You know, there's a lot that's been changing, you know, since I've been coming here in the 90s. You know, this town's done a, you know, 180. Yeah. And right. Since I moved here 10 years ago, it's done a 180, another 180. But it's the people and the attitude of just good Southern, you know, kindness. I think kindness first. Yeah. You know, you never go anywhere. You see a guy walking in front of a girl, always holds a door. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm not chauvinistic or being like, it's just the culture. Yep. And you go, I was in Miami and I saw this woman walking up with the crutches, and I just got out of my car, and this guy goes up and looks back and just walks in. No. So not only was a woman, but she had crutches, and I was like, man, I was like, there would be people running out of their cars in Nashville to do that. So it good attitude. We love the area. I love, you know, I'm from Pennsylvania, and I was joking that this is Pennsylvania light. Yeah. You know, we got hills here, but they weren't as big as the hills in Pennsylvania, but they're good sized hills. It's not flat. It gets hot today, really hot. Yep. But, you know, Florida was hot all the time, and I don't like heat. I like the snows. You know, my kid's born here. My kid's grown up. My kid's name is Nash. He was born downtown, the hospital downtown. And I always thought, man, can you imagine being that kid that was born in Nashville, grew up in Nashville, got to experience Nashville from, you know, the get till, you know, you grew up. I'm like, that's special.
You know, where we're sitting today, I grew up 5 minutes from here. As a matter of fact, this used to be the woods and trails where I used to ride my bike when I was a child. Yeah. Like right here where we're sitting today, which is crazy.
It's so, and you know, you've seen immense changes, you know, and I can only, like kind of compare it to when I was in Orlando. You know, I first started going down and visit my dad in the mid 80s. And I remember how that place had just, I mean, there were neighborhoods growing up left and right. And here, you know, even just in the years we've been here, you see all these new neighborhoods, all these roads that are so different and everything. And it is like that, you know, like, man, I remember when this was just, and 10 years living here, you know, even coming out here, you know, going down Concord Road, I'm like, man, I remember it used to be a stop sign you had to pull up to and then go around. Now it's that big. And back by my house, they're throwing in all these new neighborhoods and they're widening the roads and throwing all these things. And you see it so different than it used to be. But that's just part of the culture, and that's part of change.
Where you were putting air in your tire, that when I was a kid, that was the end of the earth.
Yeah.
I didn't know what went past that.
Yeah. Nolensville was 2 people in a turkey shoot.
That's it, and that's where we live now, is in Nolensville. My mom lives back in the neighborhood behind us in a house that we own, which
there
is
was that
cool.
old church, or there was that church down there, and that was probably about it.
That was it, and it's still there. I think my daughter goes to daycare at Jenkins. Cumberland Presbyterian is the one you're talking about. If I'm not
can't
mistaken.
get into Nolensville anymore. There's too much traffic.
Yeah.
It's like I pull up and it's like by the time you get to the Davids County line, Williams County line, it's like, yep, turn around. I can't do it.
It used to be a nice way to sneak downtown.
It was a great back way. Yep.
Oh man, I'll hit some red lights, but you're just gonna. Now you're stuck, and you're like, man.
Yeah, Nolensville's landlocked for sure.
Yeah,
I have no idea how you survived Orlando that long, because I'm thinking about, like, in the middle of winter when it's 20 degrees outside, you're wearing short pants.
I love it.
I
love the cold.
Yeah, I know you do. He is that's the Pennsylvania part of Chris.
Yeah,
right?
golfing yesterday was hard. The golf people I were with were great. I actually did. I was with Walker Hayes.
That's cool.
And I'll tell you, Walker Hayes is one of those guys. Like, I don't know him that well, but I know his story, and I've heard him telling, and I've heard him talking and stuff like that. I'm like, that's one of the guys that you root for. You know, that's one of those guys. And you know, to kind of put it into you know, all circling back. That's the thing. Another thing about Nashville is, there are starting to be some pop musicians here, you know, actors and people moving here, but it's the country artists, the country musicians that you cannot fake. Like, and it's the thing about country music. I was never a country music fan. I didn't grow up with country music. I grew up with like rock, and like I was really into like pop, rock, alternative, I even grunge, all that stuff. And country music was not my thing, but I will tell you, since I've moved here especially, it's become pop, so you can get into it a little more, but it's the people.
Yeah.
Because there's not a country artist that you see on a talk show or you see somewhere and you're like, man, I wonder what that person's like. I mean, I'll tell you what that person's like. You just saw it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no faking. And one thing about Nashville is if you fake it, they find out quick and they weed it out. And they're like, you know what? You're not right for this business. We don't like that. You know, we don't like you smiling for the camera, telling how much you love your neighbors and love all this. And then somebody asks for your autograph. Get out of here. I don't have time for that.
That's right.
You know, but they are great people. I've not met a country artist. I've met a ton of them. Mm-hmm. And I've not met a country artist yet that I didn't think, man, I could be friends with that person. That's crazy.
Authentic is the word.
Very authentic.
Always comes in.
They self-deport, by the way. You know, they eventually just leave the city when.
Oh yeah, they know. They
know.
Can figure it out. They figure it out when
yeah.
they're not getting the phone calls. I mean, I don't get the phone calls, but that's just because I figure I'm annoying.
You get a lot of phone calls,
but
yeah, you're definitely getting phone calls now for sure. Well, you know, it's such a cool thing. You guys, like, I was looking at some stuff earlier. It was such a short amount of time, and it was so big. Yeah. But it wasn't a short amount of time. It just maybe, I mean, in comparison, I guess it was. You know, a decade isn't a short amount of time.
But they say the overnight success stories.
Yeah.
You always hear about all these overnight success stories. I mean, pretty much everybody is an overnight success story.
Yeah.
Because very rarely do you have the band that put out a record and didn't do so good, and they put out another record and didn't do so good, and then they put out a third record, and then that's the one that hits. I mean, there's a handful. There's a few of those. Goo Goo Dolls, you know, I can name some that were really big, you know, in that type of thing. But it's mostly a band comes out, the Nirvanas, the Pearl Jams, those kind of bands that you hear the song and suddenly boom.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. And when they're everywhere, they're everywhere. So people are like, man, I never heard of them before this. They're an overnight success story. Yeah. You don't know the 6 years they were torn in dusty old clubs in front of 30 people for, you know, years and years. So there really aren't overnight success stories. I can tell you, you know, we were in Europe for couple years. Like you said, that's kind of what we were going back to is we were just trying to make music. We didn't say, hey, let's go be popular over in Europe and then bring it here. America didn't want us.
Like, is that why you went to Europe first?
When we did a showcase and we filmed it ourselves. Like I said, we had a lot of the Mickey Mouse Club people. We had the choreographer. We had a videographer. We went and made merch. We made posters. We did all this. And we threw out invites to all the kids that used to go watch Mickey Mouse Club or their fan club base.
Yeah.
And they came out, and we had a couple hundred kids at this show that we did, and we filmed it and, did a bunch of songs and then started sending a VHS tape to record labels. And one label or two labels came in to check it out. One was BMG Areola in Germany. And I want to say I don't remember if they were with RCA or somebody in the States. And the States label basically said, yeah, this isn't really hitting right now. Here, we can't find a market for it. And the Germans were like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe how big this is in Europe right now.
Yeah.
We'd love for you guys to go over there. So, that was just our path in life. And we made the best of it. And we used it as, let's go over there and, sing together and perform together all the time. Yeah. So if we do break over here, we'll know what we're doing. We didn't even think we were going to break over here. Like I thought like it would be now and we'd all still be together and I'd know a lot more German than I do.
Yeah.
But, it ended up, somebody came out to one of our shows and it's right when it started breaking. Pop was becoming big in the States. I think the Spice Girls were on the forefront of that, like starting to break it, then Backstreet and 98 Degrees. And they're like, man, we got to have this band or we got to have one like it and throw it out there early. And that's what happened.
Y'all's band was incredible too. Holy cow.
Oh man, I was
as a drummer, like your guy was like
Billy
somebody
Ashbaugh.
Oh my God, he was incredible. Yeah, he was doing stuff back then that they're just doing now.
Yeah, he still is. He actually gives lessons all the time and I always see him online. His wife Jenny is a drummer as well, which is crazy. But Billy was, and when Billy first came out with us, he had like long 80s hair. And this is like 97 maybe. Long 80s hair when nobody had long 80s hair. That's wearing the Jenko jeans in 2003. You're like, man, that's so out right now. But he had the long 80s hair. And, but what an amazing drummer. And we had great guitarist, great bass player, great musical director, great percussionist. One thing we kind of talked about off air, which we kind of want to bring up on air too, is you were saying about how people in the business, it's not about how good you are, it's about how good you are at finding people that are good at what they do. And I think it wasn't about how good we were, it was about how we found Robin, who was still, I've never seen a more amazing writer, vocal instructor, all that than her. And you just find the right people and plug them in, and it just helps drive you. It helps you go. Well, I always said, like, even in the band and anything we do, I want to do things where I know I'm the weakest link.
That's it.
Because if I'm the weakest link, we're going to be strong. Because if I'm the weakest link, I'm going to bust my butt and I'm going to work harder than everybody there. I'm going to be Kobe. I'm going to be first one in the gym, last one to leave. When we used to rehearse choreography and for shows and everything it took me way longer than it did the other guys. Like
really?
They'd have it quick. They're like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm like, let's do it like 5 more times. I think it's still not muscle memory yet, but it's getting there. I mean, my mind just works a little slower than everybody else's.
It's like me trying to do a TikTok with my daughters now.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second, girls. You're going to have to slow that down one more time for Dad here.
It's like you trying to start your Tesla.
It's like,
how does this, what do I...
Well, it's me trying to put gas in.
Where do I plug this in?
I mean, every time I pull up the gas station, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
You keep forgetting which side the gas tank's on. Which
right,
is
and it doesn't
weird.
even have an arrow on it like that for anything for me. What was the moment that all of a sudden you were like, all right, we're in Europe, or we're not sure where our career is going. Then all of a sudden someone sat you down and said, this is happening right now, and this is going to get huge.
That moment never came. I mean, that wasn't like there wasn't, the weird thing about it.
Like the crowds get bigger all of a sudden?
The weird thing about it is, again, kind of going back to the overnight success story kind of thing, it was one of those things where, looking back on all the amazing things we got to do, of course there's moments. I mean, Rock in Rio in front of, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fans.
The Michael Jackson.
Yeah. meeting Michael Jackson, meeting Paul McCartney, meeting Paul Simon, doing a song with Phil Collins, doing a song with Gloria Estefan, having Stevie Wonder on your record, doing a Super Bowl halftime. All these things are crazy moments, and I don't want to downplay those at all because they're absolutely, still think about those all the time. Mm-hmm. But when the way we did it was, our first show was filmed in Orlando in front of Mickey Mouse Club fans, in front of 150, maybe 200 kids. When we started in Europe, we started opening up for this guy who was huge over there at the time named DJ Bobo. And he was basically the MC Hammer of Europe. He was Swedish, I think. And he would do these crazy stand up for the rose and pray, kind of like things, not MC Hammer pray, but his own pray. And production, and we would open up for him, and he would have this big black curtain closed, and we had like maybe 6 feet where we had to do all our dancing, all our flips and the stuff we used to do, but we were the opening act. One thing we learned there is name drop the opening act one time. Don't do it because you're getting the applause. You don't go out there. Are you guys ready for DJ Bobo? How about DJ Bobo coming up next? Did you like that song? Because DJ Bobo's coming to play him, because they scream when they hear DJ Bobo or whatever. And then we did our own tour where we started out with maybe 400, couple hundred people. We played the tours close at the end. We played Berlin, and there was like maybe 1,000 or 2,000. And I remember looking out going, wow, this is what this many people looks like.
Yeah.
Then we come over we did another tour over there, and it got a little bigger. We come over to the States. We did what I call the border tour, where it's cross Texas, lower Texas, cross lower Canada, or like upper states where it's like Seattle, Boston, Detroit, all these like border states. And they were doing theaters, and they got a little bigger. And then we come out and we start doing bigger theaters and bigger shows. Then we move to sheds, and then we're playing, 4,000 or 5,000 kids a night. Then we moved to arenas, which was 7,000, 8,000 kids a night. And then you go to stadiums. So it was like this gradual, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there wasn't a moment where it was like, man, this is what's going on here. Or, you guys got to do this. It just was the next step. It was the next step up, and we never took a step back. We just kept going forward and doing bigger shows, bigger things, doing the Tonight Show. Yeah. I remember that was kind of big because we did this show called Wetten, Das in Germany, right?
With DJ Bobo?
No, DJ Bobo did not do it, but it was Thomas Gottschalk was the host, right? And he's done some acting in the States. You might know him if you saw him. But this show was like the Tonight Show of Germany, but they'd only put it on like once or twice a month. So it was this big production, and all the German people, all the German label people and everything like, oh, you guys are doing Wetten, Das. This is huge. This is huge. And, we do the show, and we're like, I think it was huge. We don't know. People come up and start speaking German. And we're like, yeah, exactly. We go home to our family in the States. We just did Wetten, Das. And they're like, well, that's Wetten great. You're like, they don't get it. But then you do Tonight Show, and that's something in the States that we'd heard of.
Yep.
And then you start doing these other shows. And we did a lot of the daytime shows. We did Rosie O'Donnell when she had a show, Ricky Lake, all those kind of, daytime talk shows.
I remember the Ricky Lake when I saw it.
Yeah, I still have, I have a robe that she autographed. Like, I was like, I got Ricky Lake's autograph. Like, because and two, here we were, we'd go overseas and we'd do these tours, and especially in Europe, kids camp out outside your hotel room.
Yeah.
And they just bring sleeping bags. There'd be 50 to 100 kids outside, and security would whisk you in. And it's like, well, I'm not going to see this town. I can't even walk outside. Because if you start to walk down the street, you're going to have 20 people following you around. We'd go to the airport and come home and tell all your friends, I'm big in Japan, like the old cliche is what you say.
You and Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, right. No, who's huge was David Hasselhoff.
That's right.
In Germany. Man, he was a god over there. It was crazy. But you come home and people are like, I don't know who. Tell my mom, she's like, I'm still proud of you. I'm like, but I did. It's like millions of viewers. She goes, I'm sure it is. But I'm still proud of you. But I'm still proud of you.
That's right. That's right. Well, it was such a massive storm. Like we were in New York with the family last fall doing some stuff and walked by Madison Square Garden. And I'm just like, I'm looking at that place. I'm like, one day I'm going to have a reason to do something there, one day. And I remember when when you got the big show came out, it was just massive. Mm-hmm. And that was when I first really loved the band so much, because those tracks are hard to replicate live.
Yeah, that was really, that was some rigorous rehearsals and stuff, was to try to make what was on the record sound good live. But the thing about it was, the only difference is you're hearing on the record 10-part harmonies, 12-part harmonies.
Yeah.
You're hearing in a live performance 5-part harmonies, mm-hmm. which is still full.
Yeah.
You're going to hear all the parts. You're just not going to get the octave of a part.
All the doubling and everything.
All the doublings or whatever. So, and another thing, the live performances to us were always our bread and butter, because we loved putting on a show. We loved making it a show. Mm-hmm. Every song we did wasn't, us with mic stands, and chairs going, okay, this next song we wrote, whatever. Every song we did was lights out for a second, and it's a music video.
Yeah.
It's something completely different. It's a wardrobe change. It's a music video. We did a song called It Makes Me Ill, and we're all on operating tables doing, choreography and stuff with operating stuff. We did a song called Up Against the Wall, which we had this giant Velcro wall, and we put on these Velcro suits and jumped off these trampolines and landed
that was madness.
On the thing.
Yeah.
We had Space Cowboy, where we brought 5 mechanical bulls out and did, choreography on mechanical bulls. And then in between, we'd play little vignettes on there, like to keep everybody from, while we're back there quick changing, which is funny, because when I help produce the shows, I always think about what I want to see as a fan, and what you believe is happening as a fan.
Yeah.
If you've been a touring musician and you're on stage, and you go off stage for a quick change, and you're in the audience, you've never done any of this, you don't know what's going on. You think they just ran back, somebody's handing them a glass of champagne. They pull up to their table, which is tablecloth table. The waiter comes over real quick, and somebody's taking their boots off for them as they're talking, discussing, whatever, and doing all this. The reality is, you're sweating your butt off downstairs, and your wardrobe person is throwing stuff at you. You're trying to get it on in time, and
sweaty.
Joey's hitting, Lance is hitting you, JC's hitting you, whoever, knocking each other. Get out of my face. I'm trying to get my boots on. I'm trying to get this, So when we do our shows, I thought it would be cool was if, we're running back and the camera's following us running back, and then there's a little break, and then it goes to this thing we filmed, and it's backstage where there's like the makeup mirrors, and somebody's getting powdered. There's an elephant walking by. There's like a bowling alley. There's all this stuff that you imagine is actually backstage to keep that whole kind of thing alive, and you buy into it, and that makes the show. But then each song you come out, like I said, it's a different vignette. It's something, we're coming in on zip lines and doing this thing where the stage gets up and moves out and goes, and try to make that arena or where you're playing so that those people in the back get a chance to feel like they're in the front row, kind of thing. So it was the live show was our bread and butter.
You did a lot to kind of change the whole live show, the whole feel of a live show when you were doing stuff like that. They became more theatrical.
Well, I don't think we changed that. That was done before us.
Well, you took it to a level that had not been seen.
Yeah, we definitely took it to a level that it was like you were watching an episode of TRL.
Yeah.
Or you're watching MTV, and it just happened to be the NSYNC hour, or something. So it's all our songs, but you're watching like each music video as it happened, or each thing was different than the next, and we're not just coming out and just us dancing and doing choreography. There's all... we had every song was a different vignette.
That's right.
Exhausting.
That's right. Well, you brought up. I had to be right.
No, seriously, you had to be in really good shape to do something like that because
or young.
Right?
Trust me, that show I just had 2 nights ago in Rhode Island, we added new songs and like more choreography and more dancing. And right before I went out to do my set with the guys, the AC broke in this little theater, and it was hot.
Oh.
And I looked at my road manager and I said, "Hey, watch me." I was like, I might go down. If you see me just go down, just act like it's part of the show and carry me off.
And then you come home and play golf in 110-degree heat. You're.
And I told my guys, watch me. I could go down.
Are you ready to take your brand digital? At HitLab Creative, we don't just make content. We build your digital foundation from the ground up. So whether you're launching a podcast, creating scroll-stopping social media content, or building a website that actually converts, we connect all the dots. Podcast production, CRM systems, content strategy, data analytics, branding, it's all under one roof. Because in today's world, content without strategy, it's just noise. And you're here to make an impact. So if you're ready to launch smarter, grow faster, and create with a purpose, it's time to team up with the HitLab. Visit hitlabstudio.com/studio-time and let's build something that lasts. Because the HitLab is where digital strategy meets data-driven content creation. What's it like? So you mentioned the family. You mentioned Nash. How old is he now?
7. He'll be 8
7.
in October.
So my oldest is 15. My youngest is 4. I have a 4-year-old daughter. You're getting into the good parts.
Yeah.
You're getting into the
I
really
think
good
they're
parts.
all good parts.
Oh, for sure.
They're all good. But like I said earlier, you always remember the good stuff.
Yeah.
You don't remember how bratty they were. You don't remember whatever. When you see them time hops come up and you see that little face again, you're like,
oh yeah,
I miss that little guy. That's why if somebody ever asks me advice about having a kid, I'm always like, enjoy the moment.
That's it.
Because it goes by fast and you never get that moment back. You know, don't sit there and go, I can't wait till they start walking. You see a little kid playing. I can't wait till they start playing like that little kid. I'm like, wait. Because they don't go back to not playing. You know, that there's that cliche that at one point you're going to pick them up and put them down and never pick them up again, kind of thing. That's kind of the attitude that I have with him. But yeah, he'll be 8 in October.
Dude, it's incredible, and there's not a much better place to raise a family than in Nashville.
Unbelievable. It's
right.
Now my son would beg to differ.
Where's he like?
When we go back to Orlando,
come on.
He's like, is that Disney? You used to live right next to Universal Studios at the roller coaster and this big Hard Rock pool and all this, and I'm like, come on, it ain't all like this.
That's right.
You know, and I live in Nashville. I'm like, yeah, but wait till you're 21. Then let's see what you say about living in Nashville.
Then you're going to move him to Orlando.
He'll really hate me.
Yeah, Nash, we're going to Orlando. I'm seeing Blake Disney.
Yeah.
Well, what's it like? So, oddly enough, the short time that I played professional sports, my wife and son my wife wasn't my wife. She was the person that I was just, I fought for her for like 8 years.
That's got to be hard for you then, knowing that because my wife and son, same thing. We haven't done anything together in 20 some years.
Yeah.
And knowing that where you were and what you got to do, who you're with now and your family didn't get to experience it with you.
They didn't. And that was literally when I played, it was literally like the internet was a thing, but there was no footage. I have zero footage of me playing professional baseball. We had some TV, but it was all local stuff, Yeah. I don't have any of it. So my son has never seen me play, seen baseball cards, posters, stuff like that. My wife, I've always coached my son's team, and she has it's just a thing, and it's something we talk about. And son knows that I was really good.
He knows it, but it doesn't almost seem real because he wasn't there to experience it, and that's gotta be tough because it's tough for me.
Yeah. And I'll never be the physical person that I was 20 years ago. But cool enough for, I think as a musician, it seems like when the Eagles, when they came back for Hell Freezes Over, they were the best right then because they were in that mid 40s to 50s range when as a man, you're at your prime with stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, what's it like as your kid? What kind of questions does he ask you? Does he even understand?
Well, I was going to say to that though, the difference is the Eagles don't do choreography.
That's right.
Us doing choreography now is a lot different than us doing choreography then.
No kidding.
It's a little different. But yeah, I think there's still, luckily for me, there's still enough out there that he gets to experience. There's music videos. There's all these different things. It always gets funny for him if I get stopped somewhere and people ask for pictures or if somebody really freaks out over it. Because I've had, I had times where we'd be at the airport and some guy comes over. Oh my God, I can't believe it's you. Could I have a picture? And I see my son's face, and he kind of like twerks up a little bit and perks up a little bit, not twerks. And he kind of tries to sneak into the picture a little bit, like, hey, look. And I find him like Googling Chris Kirkpatrick's son. And he goes, Dad, look at my computer. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I creating? But sees the music videos. The Deadpool thing actually was big because then we became an emote on Fortnite. Okay. And if you know what language I'm speaking right now, for a kid, that was huge. He was screaming one morning and I came out. He goes, Dad, I just bought you as an emote. And I'm like, well, I just made a nickel. I just lost $6 and made a nickel.
That's right.
But,
that's cool.
He kind of gets it. He says he gets it. He plays one of his favorite artists right now is Eminem. He loves Eminem.
That's what I'm talking about.
I love Eminem too, but he calls me out in one of his songs that my son likes to blare already at 7 years old. And I'm like, there's a lot of other songs he had that were really good. Not the one where he says he's kicking my ass, but there's some other great ones. He's like, yeah, but Dad, this one just hits different. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess it really kind of does. So, he gets that. And when he gets to meet certain people a lot of times, but I think the weird part is it's this generation now, when we were growing up, and not to be this guy going back when I was a kid.
Oh, I got a story for you.
But it really was like the older generations were when you were a kid. And what do you want to be when you grow up? It was, I want to be a rock star. Mm-hmm. I want to be a famous football player. I want to be a famous baseball player. I want to be a soccer player. I want to be a hockey player, basketball, whatever. I want to be an actor. Mm-hmm. I want to be on TV. I want to be in movies, right? That's all you heard. Like those are the big ones. You don't hear that at all anymore. Nobody says I want to be an actor. Maybe the sports, you still hear some of the sports, but not even music as much, hardly at all. But it's all, I want to be a social influencer. Yeah. I want to be a famous influencer. And it's just different times. But, having my kid coming home when we did a thing down at the factory in Franklin with Pete Rose, and I got him to sign a baseball to Nash, and I bring it home like, dude, Pete freaking Rose to Nash. He's like, cool. I'm like, that's it? Yeah. Like, just cool? Like, you don't know how cool this is. Yeah. And then for his birthday, I got him a couple different times. We got these TikTokers to send him stuff. Oh, wow. And he was standing up. Come on, Dad, you're capping. You're capping. That means lying. By the way, I learned that. You
actually taught me that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, you just met Jalen Rose and a Megatron last week in Detroit, and that's cool. He doesn't really know him as much as he does. Watches YouTube or watches these things, right, or watches Mr. Beast or watches these guys that just become icons to them, and that's why to me, I don't bash whatever anybody does. If you're an influencer, whatever it is, good for you. Like, obviously you're making a difference, especially if you're making money at it. Somebody's paying you to do this. There's a market for it, and that's great. It's just hard to grasp that how different it was growing up and who our idols were compared to, the young generation now and who their idols are. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It's just way different.
I guess it was the same way for us when we were kids, right? Versus our parents. The biggest difference for me, I think,
they didn't know what a movie star. Well, I guess they kind of did, but not really. Television star was Ed Sullivan.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Walter Cronkite.
Yeah. The biggest difference for me now is that back then the stuff from the 60s and the 70s, the quality wasn't there yet. And so it ages itself versus like a lot of the stuff now. Maybe I'm old enough and I can't tell, but it seems like the production quality is so good with TV movies. Everything's just kind of held its place.
But look at sports though. Sports is the one thing that's really taken off, because if you look at sports in the 70s, you look at football in the 70s, You look, the only one you can't say that about is baseball. Baseball's always been America's pastime. Baseball's always been, from Babe Ruth, even before that, baseball was always this giant, elaborate thing. Football in the 70s started to become this thing. Right. Basketball in the 70s started to become this thing. Hockey in the 90s started to become this thing. So you've got these sports. ESPN, I think, did a major help in all that, because I remember in the 80s, I loved hockey. I'm from Pittsburgh. I was a Penguins fan back then, and when I was in high school, I could never see a hockey game. Nope. It was so hard to find a hockey game on TV. Now it's like, especially with the internet and all this stuff, you can find hockey, you find any sport. I mean, when COVID hit, I was the first one sitting there going, man, cornhole is intense. Like, this is crazy. I was like, oh, he's gonna do a floater right here. Like, this is gonna be I was gonna try to brag right there, whatever they called it, when they just throw it right in. Dang it, I missed that boat.
Swish.
But, no, it's not a swish.
I know,
that's basketball, old man.
No.
But yeah, so
swoosh,
a swoosh, airmail. That's what it is. Oh, he's gonna airmail this one. Bet you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
He's going to airmail this one.
Of all the TV I watched during COVID, I did not watch one
oh God, man,
cornhole tournament.
And it was that lion dude in cornhole for me.
Oh yeah. I
was going to call him the Lion King, but he's the Lion King. What was he?
Tiger
King. Tiger dude.
Yeah.
God, I still have a hard time thinking about the Tiger King. He still gives me the willies, man.
Well, what's going to be crazy though to think about is that the way I think about it now is when I think of the Tiger King, I think of COVID.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is.
It's a traumatic.
Tiger King is COVID.
Yep.
That and the guy that was the picture of the guy, the guy with.
Oh yeah. The dude sitting on the edge of his bed. That dude that just appeared, and it was like getting rickrolled.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're like, oh hey, I found a birthday card for you, and opened up, and it was it was that dude.
It's that guy.
I saw Christmas ornaments.
Now I know what you're talking about.
I think he's making a comeback. I saw a coffee mug that a kid gave his mom. And the longer that the hot coffee sat in there, like what was on the outside of the cup populated based on the heat of the coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And she's sitting there drinking her drink, and sure enough, there it shows up. I saw this like yesterday.
Oh man,
I love it.
Yeah, and COVID, that's another crazy thing to talk about. We lived through that.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my kid was so young. You not so much, and you not so much, because you had kids in school that had to get out of school and do class from home and all that. And
it was insane.
Yours are a little older than mine. Yours went through it the hardest part, Neil.
They were out of school for a little bit, but they got back in pretty quick though. So it was just a brief break from it. No, I think about their classmates that had to go through graduation that never got a graduation, right?
Yeah.
And at least my girls got to experience those big events, right? Mm-hmm. Some kids never went to a senior prom. They never went to graduation. They spent their freshman year online, and they never got that experience of getting.
Never got to get a wet willy.
Never got a wet willy
by the seniors.
By the seniors.
You went in as a sophomore, going, man, this has been easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
his are the worst.
Hanging up here on this hook ain't so bad.
But they were at a good age where they got over that pretty quick after that. But that was hard to even think back on those times, like they weren't even real.
But if you do, it's Tiger King and Homeboy on the bed.
That's I guess he was on a bed. I don't know. It was everywhere.
Oh come on!
What's his name? Do we even know?
Maybe, but you could have even told me what the picture on his nightstand looked like. Stop lying.
Well, maybe.
So there was a picture on his nightstand.
Maybe.
I knew it.
Maybe.
Got him.
We're setting him up.
Got him.
I felt that. That's how I know you well enough now where I can.
That's why you just shut up.
Coming from across the room.
You just shut up.
I just quiet.
Like,
we should have just hit record with them two before we started.
No.
Here comes the softball coming in.
Honestly, this has been a fascinating conversation. I've been quite content. I might even watch this episode.
Man.
Yeah, which is weird because you've interviewed me how many times before and never heard the stories?
That's weird. That's just poor interviewing skills on my part.
I didn't say it.
How many times do you know how many times you've interviewed him before?
Ooh.
I've twice on TV, in 2 other podcasts, I believe, in longer forms.
Have we ever done like shows?
We
host a lot of stuff, and Have I ever gone up?
No,
we used to always.
I did something at Opryland with you at Soundwaves, right?
Oh yeah, I like. It's cool to see him in his element though too. Like, you know, if we go out, like especially like when they did the Franklin Christmas tree light and all that, where he's hosting something, it's cool because you go out there and you know you kind of fall asleep for a minute at the fact that, oh, that's my friend Neil. It's like, oh, that's professional Neil.
Yeah.
You know, and he's good. He's quick up there. And all your, you know, cohorts are all, Danielle's was really good. Nikki's been really good at that stuff. You know, watching you guys get up there and just in your element, because that took me a while. That was hard. That's hard. If I host something, and you get up there and you're like, so, am I supposed to sing? You want to hear a song real quick? Do you got a guitar? What am I doing? But yeah, that's always fun.
I sort of find that hard to believe that was difficult for you.
No, talking's easy.
Talking, right. I was
talking
but
part's
doing
easy.
a host thing,
The talking part.
you seem like a natural.
Well, it's kind of like you now being here kind of on this show and staying quiet.
That's hard for me.
Yeah,
That is hard.
very
Yeah,
hard. That's what you don't do.
You're right. You're right about that.
Nick's going to walk away going, why did I have Neil here at this time too?
So
Because I don't think I found anything out, but I know how good of friends they are. They're idiots.
I will go back to that Soundwaves event because it's what you were talking about with Nash is that. So Chris is there, some other celebrities were there, and I brought my daughters with me. And they walk in and they see these two teenage boys that I've never seen before in my life. And I watched my girls melt in front of my eyes for the very first time. As a father, that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
but they were social media kids. So we never have access to the what our kids are watching in that term. And when I saw that, it kind of changed the whole way I look at this stuff. It was wild, right? You saw it.
The difference too, though, is that's one thing that I'm pretty good about is like we only have one kid. You know, this is my buddy. Like, you know, like they always say, I got to create my best friend. I got to create this guy that not only if it's not going to be my best friend, I'm gonna make him my best friend because I'm his parent and he's got to be. You know, it's like I'm gonna create you like I want to create you. But I'm always very hands on. We were kind of talking a little bit about it earlier too. It's like. I'm old now for a dad for having a 7-year-old and everything, but I'm tired. I'm traveling all the time, but I always make sure that no matter what happens, no matter how tired I am, no matter what I've been doing, if my son says, "Hey dad, let's," you know, either I'll try to find something else to do around it. I'll pivot a little bit or I'll do it, you know, because that's what I have to do. But doing all those things when it comes to social media, he plays on video games all the time and plays with his cousins and all these people. I'm sitting right next to him the whole time. So when he talks about these TikTokers, my wife thinks we're both crazy, and I think I'm crazy knowing all these people and knowing who they are and whatever. But you know, talk about his friends online, but I hear them, and it's funny sometimes because he plays through his controller, and I can hear the people talking on the other end. He'll be talking to his cousins. Sometimes they get into they don't know that I'm always in the room with my kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, this was the latest one. You gotta, on Fortnite, you gotta get Chun-Li. You gotta get Chun-Li because she's got a nice giot. And that means butt.
Giot means
I've learned that giot is butt. And my kid's 7 and I'm like, and he always like, I hear that whoever's like, oh, she's got a nice giot. Yeah, you know my dad's in the room too, right? Like it's like this is our school talk we talk about, but I can like, you know, censor him, and I don't really. There's not a lot we censor him. Like I said, he loves Eminem, you know, and Eminem has some songs that I don't always get the rated G version of.
Yeah,
and he'll say a word or say it in a song sometimes, and I'm like, listen, I don't think it's bad parenting if I let my kid listen to this stuff. It's if he understands what they're talking about, understands it metaphorically or whatever, however they're doing it, and doesn't become a bad person.
Words are just tools, man. It's how you use the tool.
Exactly. And I've said it before, and you know, I get some letters and stuff about it. I think Eminem is probably one of the nicest guys. Like I'll bet you he does amazing things for people. But he's controversial, and that's what people see, and that's what people latch onto, and that's what people go, well, he said this, and he's really mean about this. And I'm like,
smart.
Well, it is. Well, that's what got me in trouble. That's what got me on his song in the first place.
That's right.
Was I said something about it because I was like, you know, he's controversial. I was like, he's like the crocodile hunter. He jumps in with the crocodiles, you know, and that's what people, you know, watch. But, you know, in the end, He has the same birthday as me and me and your wife.
That's right.
So, an Evel Knievel.
That'd be a hell of a birthday party.
Can you imagine?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It'd be a hell of a birthday party. So,
if Evel were still alive.
That one won't happen, right?
Evel's going to jump a couple buses while Eminem spits some bars and Chris does a dance break.
I'm in. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, so my son is 15. We FaceTimed my wife. Earlier. Thank you for doing that. That was awesome. So, my son's 15. He was cast at 11. He was cast in a Broadway musical, the School of Rock show.
Wow.
He was the drummer, and ironically, he had to turn it down because my daughter was born 2 weeks after he was supposed to move. That was during COVID, and they were doing them all out west, and we're gonna have to move out there for a while. And we were about to have our daughter, but I'm gonna do what I did to my wife while we're on the air, just because he hasn't met a stranger. I'm about to FaceTime him.
All right.
I'm gonna hand you the phone, and all this is gonna be on.
Oh, this is gonna be so bad.
Absolutely.
This is gonna be one of those. Okay.
He's gonna be like, who are you?
Who are you?
No, he knows.
What do you do?
Wait, hold on a second. You look familiar. No, you don't.
Well, you know what?
He loves your drummer. So he's watched all the live
Billy
shows.
Ashball. Yeah, you know what's funny though is I always make this joke. I always talk about. I'm like, man, back in the day, it was crazy because we'd do some meet and greets. And you'd see these moms come up with their daughters, and the daughters are losing their crying, shaking hysterically, doing all this. And the moms, because it was before YouTube, all this stuff, the moms are like, this is all on her own. I don't know much about you guys. This is so crazy seeing my daughter suddenly convulsing in front of these idiots like this. And now
it's the daughters
it's
walking
the
up
opposite.
crying moms.
It's the opposite. The moms are convulsing. Yeah. And the daughters are like, what is my mom doing? She's embarrassing me right now. And it's even worse if they have young kids. Because the moms are like, oh my God, take a picture with him. Take a picture with him. And the little kids are like, Mom, I don't know this stranger. This is so creepy.
That is fantastic.
And you're just sitting there like, come to me. Stand over here, you crazy little kid. Have some candy.
Well, let's see. I bet he should answer the phone. So I'm just gonna hit it, and I'm gonna pass it over there, Neil, and just Chris. I don't know, have some fun with him. You'll have to cut him off.
Oh, really? What's his name?
Ethan. And because he'll go. You'll have to cut him off. But have a little fun with him. Whatever you want to do. Let's see. All right. Pass that on over.
There you go.
Make sure we're still good. Yep.
All right. Let's see.
You used to do those things where I could call you if it was like you'd do a birthday wish for me. Do you still do that?
Why do you think I changed my number so many times on you?
No, not me. You did the thing where people could do that. What was it?
That was the third time I changed my number. Man, you're 0 for 2.
I'm 0 for 2. Well, she answered on the second one. What would he be doing right now? What would he be doing right now? Call him again. Dial his ass again.
Man, this one's on you.
That's all on you.
Going back again. That's on you.
Let me see if I can't get him. Let me see if I can't get him.
One more time's going to block you now.
Chris Hansen's going to come out of the back real quick going.
Here you go, Chris. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
He called back.
He is.
There's
he called you right back.
He did. You're on the air, Ethan.
What's up, Ethan?
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? Where are you at? Looks like the mall.
Yes, yeah.
I knew it.
Exactly.
I can tell. You're at the mall. You are shopping at, what is that? Victoria's Secrets? Look at all that pink in there. That's
Ethan,
pretty.
what are you doing at Victoria's
Cute
Secret?
little teddy.
I'm with somebody at the moment.
Okay, who's that?
My friend Marley.
Hi, Marley.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We know about this, Nick?
Yeah, do we know about Marley?
Okay, all right. We're just making sure.
She's just a friend, right?
We don't.
She just a friend? Oh no, girlfriend. At least you admit to it.
That's right.
And at least it's not one of those things where you're trying to make it a girlfriend and I'm blowing it for you.
I would already did that.
I just had this girl, like this kind of first date kind of thing. I'm really hoping. Is that your girlfriend? Are you guys making out in the Victoria's Secret's house? It's like, hey, stop. You're getting me in so much trouble. This is horrible. So I heard you got cast in what was it? The School of Rock?
Yes, I did when I was 11.
And you couldn't do it.
Yeah, my sister was born literally 2 weeks before we were supposed to go.
So you still hold it against her, right? Like, not bad enough you have a sister, but I could have been somebody. You have no idea how big I would be if you weren't born.
Nah, she's the real gift. And actually, if I didn't do that, I actually have a YouTube channel that's pretty big, and I do wiffle ball on that.
Oh, what's your YouTube channel?
Ethan Hyder, my name.
Oh, there we go. You always hit that up on this show?
He's got 24,000 subs on that sucker, all by himself.
That's
Subs.
10 times as much as you do.
It literally.
You should be on his show.
I know.
He won't invite Nick. He won't invite.
Hey, if I come out and hit a wiffle ball, will you talk about my show real quick so I can get some followers?
That's right.
Yeah, I got you, man.
No, not me. I'm talking as your dad.
No, Chris is good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hit. I don't know if I can still hit anymore. I played baseball. Do you have one of those wiffle ball places built?
No, we literally just use either my friend's backyard or just part of the front of my neighborhood.
And how does that work? Do you have like a sheet or something up there that you have to hit that's a strike zone?
We literally have a strike zone made for wiffle ball, and we just put it right behind the batters, and if it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
They track exit velocities and everything in his games.
We got all the metrics, dude. If you came out, we can get your exit velos on that, dude.
Well, you need that.
Which are so important.
People ask you about that all the
Yeah,
time.
you wouldn't believe on this tour how much that comes up. They're like, man, that song was all right, but what's your exit velocity? And I was like, hold on a minute. And I have to pull out a chalkboard and start doing old school, like pull my abacus. And I'm like, well, if I calculated correctly, no, I don't even know what that is, to be honest. Is that how far I hit it out or throw it?
I mean, it has literally the pitch speed and how fast you hit it off the bat. It will get that as well.
Wow.
Isn't there an app for
He
that?
has an exit strategy, but not a velocity.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. My exit strategy is, hey, if she's a loser, I'm going to say this word, call me. And I'll be like, oh my God, my sister needs a ride. I got to go. That's my exit strategy. All right, well, we just wanted to call and say hello.
Absolutely. I'm super glad. I literally picked up my phone at the perfect time.
Yeah. Or you didn't. You didn't because you didn't answer when I called. So maybe you did pick it up at the perfect time. He goes, oh, Chris might be calling now. I'm going to wait. Nobody puts... Oh, wait, look at that. It's magnetic. It's magnetic on the back. I was like, hey.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. All right. Well, take care, Ethan.
Amazing to meet you, sir.
All right. Nice
Thanks,
to meet
E.
you, too. Here's your dad.
That's awesome.
Talk to you later.
Later, dude.
All right.
Dude, you just got a later dude.
I did, and that's
I've
the
been
first
getting
call
that.
we've ever had on the show. Are you ready to transform your business and unlock new revenue streams? At Processing First, we empower our partners with cutting-edge payment solutions and unparalleled support. We're more than just a one-size-fits-all payment processor. We're relationship-driven. By leveraging our extensive network of banking partners, we match you with the ideal bank to ensure that you receive the most competitive rates and deliver an exceptional experience for both you and your customers. Join a network that values transparency, efficiency, and growth. With our state-of-the-art POS systems and competitive processing rates, you can offer your clients the best in payment technology while boosting your own profitability. Why choose Processing First? Innovative solutions. Stay ahead with our advanced payment processing tools. Dedicated support. Our team is here to assist you every step of the way. Lucrative opportunities. Enhance your income by providing top-tier services to your clients. Don't settle for less. Partner with Processing First and take your business to the next level. Visit processingfirst.com to learn more and join our growing community of successful partners.
I've been getting dude, though. Or bro. I get bro a
Bro
lot.
hurts.
Bro doesn't hurt.
Does he ever call you Chris?
When you want... First of all, we have a rule. We have a rule. I told him because, he does that. Kids do that just to try to test their boundaries, call you by their name and just see what you do. Like, I'm your father or whatever. I don't care. I'm like, don't call me Chris. I was like, now you can call me CK. So he loves doing that because my friends, all my real friends that know me, well, I probably shouldn't say it now because if somebody's like, CK, I don't know you. I just wanted to say CK. But my really close friends, most of them call me CK. So if we're doing something.
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't. Hey, the other dumbasses do though. All the dumbasses call me CK except for
That's
Neil.
right.
So
That's
weird how that works. But no, but it's. I think it's kind of cool sometimes if he's like, hey, CK, do you want to go up and play something? I'm like, yeah. Because I think sometimes my wife calls her mom Deb, which my mom's name is Bev, and I don't think even on one hand I could tell you when I've said the word Bev to my wife. Like it's mom or mama or Grammy or whatever, but I've never called her by name. And I just thought that was so weird. And my wife was, oh, Deb's like this or Deb, whatever. I'm like, are you calling her Deb?
Yeah, I don't call my parents by their first names either. I don't think I ever have. It's always been mom, dad, or like grandparents' name. But like,
what are their grandparent names?
Well, there's a lot of grandparents. So there's Gaga and Pops. There's Guinea and Grandpa. There's Nina. And then
Pinta and Santa Maria.
Who am I leaving? That's a great track, by the way. and who else am I leaving it out? Oh man, Granny and Pa. So there's 7 of them total, I think.
So Pennsylvania, it was not the South, because I think that's a Southern thing.
Yep.
In Pennsylvania, well, my wife does it, and she's Ohio. That's north. But in Pennsylvania, it was always Grandma and Grandpa. My mom with my kid is Grammy.
Yeah.
And my dad is Grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my dad's wife is Boo Boo. But
Is that a stage name?
Yeah, that was when she was working for dollars. She went by Boo Boo. She slipped a lot. It made sense.
It was Boom Boom, but then she had that surgery. So now
older she got, it became Boo Boo.
Shortened to Boo Boo.
But then my wife's mom is Biba. And my wife's dad is Bappa. And I think it was because the oldest grandkid would try to say grandpa or grandma and was whatever they would call him.
That's right.
And it was like Bappa or whatever, Biba. And that's the first time I really even figured out that you get names like that. Like,
what's yours going to be? Have you thought about
mine's
it?
going to be that guy in the grave, because my kid's only 7 and I'm pushing Social Security now.
Him on the wall over there. There he is.
Well, my famous dad, not the one my mom's married to now, but my famous dad, my birth dad. That's what I'll be, birth dad. Yeah, I hope. Well, I hope I'm around for a lot of that, but I started late.
Both of us.
Don't have big
Both
expectations.
of us did, yeah.
Well, all I can tell you, nobody really, I don't think you can really plan for it. But I'm surprised that Ethan turned out as good as he is, because when I think about what kind of a person I was when he came along, it's crazy to think, we're literally raising 2 different humans, but in 2 different, it's 2 different people raising my daughter than raised my son.
Well, that goes another way too, because luckily I'm, like I said, older, so I waited. I did all my partying, I did all my crazy, going around the world, touring, do all this crazy stuff, and then I have a kid, so I can really cater to him. I'm not selfish. I don't have to go, oh, I need to do this. I can always put him first. But you did say something, and it's got a double entendre or double meaning a little bit too. Is what I've found is it's 2 different people raising a kid, because my wife raises him one way, I raise him another way, and that's a battle.
Yeah.
Like that becomes a lot of, I notice my wife does a lot of false threats on my kid. I always said last year we always book a place out in Gatlinburg at Easter, and a bunch of my friends come in, and we just have a big Easter out in Gatlinburg every year. And last year, my kid was acting up. My wife looks at him. She goes, we're leaving the next day. She goes, if you keep acting like this, we're not going to the cabin tomorrow. And I said, well, we paid for the cabin. We did all this stuff. I'm pretty sure we're going to the cabin tomorrow. That's called an idle threat. You're just saying that no matter, he could murder somebody and be like, well, we still paid for the cabin tomorrow, so we are going, but don't do it again. So she makes a lot of those idle threats. And I make a lot of those. I'm follow through.
Yeah.
And my follow through, when I go on, if I'm on the road for a couple days and I come home, I can always tell, because he's a little more lenient, gets away with a little more stuff that he does than when I'm home. So,
That's right.
But it is 2 different people raising, because I grew up in trailer parks. My wife's, father was a kicker in the NFL, and, it's not like she grew up with a ton of money, but, upper middle class. So we were raised different. She had both her parents. I was single parent. You know, and then you just learn different ways of doing stuff. So
that's right.
A lot of battle there, but it is two different people raising the same kid.
Well, Chris, CK.
Yeah. Don't you dare.
I'm still trying to figure out when you go to Gatlinburg. I just heard about this.
That's right.
That's you know, you were there. I know. Stop lying.
And when Carly threatens me with punishment, she always delivers. I don't get that either.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah. She follows through.
Yours are usually just don't come over to the house. If you don't knock it off, don't come. You and Chris are not sitting out back smoking cigars. He's going to have to go to Brentwood.
We're not home right now, Neil. And I'll be like, but I'm sitting in front of your house. I see your cars. She's like, no, everyone. And then I see everyone duck in the window, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm parked behind a row of 8 cars out front of your house. I'm pretty sure there's something going on. You guys don't move.
You see,
like when rent
you see
was
the bush
due?
by the fountain in your pool, Chris? That's me.
Is this a bill collector thing we do? No. This is the Neil thing we do. Everybody act quiet. Quiet.
Well, I know there's a charity event coming up, right? I want to get into
we
it.
Do.
We do.
We don't have a date on it yet.
Okay.
We haven't officially got the date. We're tentatively pushing for February, but we're doing Lane's Laughs and Lyrics. And I do that with Notes for Notes, which is locally based, but they've got studios all across the country. But what better place to kind of base it in than Nashville? And it really kind of blows my mind that there's not a lot more names involved in it, because what they're doing is they build studios into boys and girls clubs and they don't have their own brick and mortar. That's a dream if we get our own brick and mortar. But, you know, as it is, it's a lot easier to build the studio, and when you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay all these different things on there. But they get them, and they get musical equipment, musical, opportunities for kids that I couldn't imagine. I mean, we didn't have a boys and girls club around me, but, you know, when I was young, if I got to, you know, touch an MPC or understand how recording works and getting into a vocal booth, because it wasn't until the band, my first band, which was, you know, basically NSYNC before it was the other 4 guys, it was 4 other guys. And that was the first time I'd ever been in a studio. And you go in, I'm like, oh, okay, wear headphones. You know, I did a lot of performing. I did a lot of coffee shops, things like that. But getting in there and getting hands-on in a studio, because you don't know if that kid, same thing. There could be a kid sitting there going, man, you know, you think there was a guy, you know, I'm not sure when he grew up, that was going, I'm going to be a famous artist. And then that didn't work out. But my name's Quincy Jones. What could I do? You know, you don't know when you're going to find those kids, or because you'll there with internet, with all that stuff. It's a lot easier now if you're in music and you're a musician to put it on the internet, and somebody's going to see and go, man, look at this kid, or look what this kid does. But to be behind the scenes, to go, man, I really like producing. I really like engineering. I really like just playing, you know, whatever. And that's the opportunities that they get here. They get all hands-on, everything studio, everything about the studio you get to learn. And it's great to watch, you know, and it's great to be with these kids. And, you know, I go in there, I've done a song. We're working on some songs together. I actually did a Christmas track that they came and sang on too. And, you know, seeing these kids get to start something and it actually come to fruition, and then get it on record or get it on a vinyl or whatever it is, it's really magical. And most people don't get that until you get to go out and see it. You get to see the studio. You get to really, because that's what it did for me. It took me, I went in and they're like, oh, you're going to go do this thing at this Boys and Girls Club for Notes for Notes. I'm like, well, this is right up my alley, because, you know, I grew up really poor. You know, this is where I would have gone, you know, as a kid, and get to see other kids that don't get the experiences that most people get because they're financially burdened or whatever it is. And then I got there and I'm like, what do I need to do for these guys? Like, how can I help? This isn't just a camera opportunity. This isn't me taking pictures, hugging little kids, whatever. This is something that I really want to be a part of. And, you know, I've become, you know, really a part of it, so much so that we've decided we're going to do this big charity event. And that's what we came up with: bowling, you know, comedy, and music, you know, and those 3 things. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to showcase a lot of the kids that are there, a lot of the performers, and just make it a fun night. So whenever we get the date, we'll blast it out. I'll let you know. And we'd love to have you there. Of course,
absolutely.
Neil's going to be the host.
Yeah, baby.
I'll post it on my Facebook page, Chris.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. I forgot to tell you this.
Oh,
too.
I'm a host?
No. Actually, what we wanted to do is we want to bring your podcast.
Yes.
And we want you to do a podcast from there and be kind of the MC podcast. Like when people are bowling,
a great
you can
idea.
be interviewing people as they come up. So
Well,
you
it's
have to
amazing.
say yes because I had to ask you on this.
Well, it's right along the lines of what I want to be doing. So yes.
Okay,
And
good.
so I say thank you.
You're
I mean, it might look terrible,
Yeah, well,
but
that's all right.
we try.
It's all right. You're good at
we
what
try.
you do. You'll make it look.
I'm good at making look
presentable.
presentable. Terrible.
That's right. That's right.
No, it's great, and he jumps into lots of charity stuff too.
Absolutely.
He does.
Absolutely. Doing okay on time, baby? We're doing okay.
Yeah.
We're doing good. Awesome. Well, all right. I lost my spot. Hang on a minute. All right, there it is. Got it. So, with the event, the event's going to get announced, and Neil's hosting it. People are going to come in droves.
Oh yeah, it'd be 6, 7
because of old.
But he, like
old
I
Neil.
said, and when we were discussing it, it was actually just last week, we came up with the idea of having, somebody there that could MC and kind of wrangle, because hopefully we'll have a lot of celebrities there. We'll get them all to come over, maybe a couple bites or whatever. And then it'll be great to maybe even have some of the kids come over, sing a little bit or do a song or something like that. And I said, well, Neil's doing it. I haven't asked him yet, but I will make him do it.
Yep.
And I know he'll do it. And it's just going to be, I think it's going to be really cool and hopefully open a lot of people's eyes that it's here. That's the main thing to me, because that, like I said, when I got there and saw what it was, I was like, I'm all in on this. Like, you tell me what you need from me, I'm going to help. They said, well, let's produce a song. So we started that. I would go to the studio with some of the kids and we'd produce a song. And then it became, let's come up with more concepts and helping him with ideas and possibly talking to some, getting a mobile unit is what we'd like to, along with getting a brick and mortar. And, just all these ideas. And Phil's such a great guy. And, we get together and it takes us 45 minutes till we start talking about what we were there to talk about. Cause you're just, kind of shooting it up a little bit. But, and it really means something to me. And going there and seeing it and then thinking to myself, this is Nashville. We got Music Row.
Yeah.
You've got, when I moved here, I had a studio in Orlando. I moved here with a studio and it's been in storage for 8 years because I've never had, there's a studio, everybody's got it. There's a studio at your house, studio at your house, there's a studio, everybody's got a studio. Every time I needed it, I'm like, well, I'm not going to go build a studio because he's got a studio.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, there's so many studios here. Why aren't more people involved? Like, why isn't Nashville take this on as like one of its pet projects? Like, this is something that the whole town can get behind and go, there's no egos involved here. There's no, oh, well, this is going to this and this, and this is going where it needs to go. These are going to those kids who, there are so many studios, but this is a studio they can walk into and put their hands on it. It was a no-brainer.
You've mentioned a couple of times what you came from, so I'm from old Antioch, Tennessee, but that was like good middle class in the 80s.
Yeah,
you
right.
know what I mean? It wasn't what Antioch is today.
My uncle, that's when I was coming up here visiting, was in Antioch.
Yep.
And I remember going, man, that's a cool mall right here.
Oh yeah.
There's so much going on in this part of town. And then we moved here and I'm like, yeah, we're going over to Antioch. They're like, ooh.
Right.
Well, I mean, how long are you going to be there? And like, and that sucks, but you get areas all the time that happens to. I mean, Jelly Roll's from there, right? Did you go to school with Jelly?
No, so we went to the same place. He was a couple years older or younger than me. I can't remember, but we went to the same places. Yeah. Actually, I don't even know if he was a free man when we would have been going to school together. It might be if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I've known of him. I knew the Jelly Roll before the Jelly Roll we know today.
Yeah.
Especially, in the early 2000s when we were.
You knew him when he's a munchkin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When we were downtown in the hospitality and the bar industry and everything, and he was a regular at a lot of the spots, and he was a little rough around the edges back then. But he was always a sweet guy.
Yeah,
he was always a sweet guy.
He's definitely another one of those ones that, you have to say, come on, we're getting pranked. Like you're really this nice or this cool. You know, there's a lot people. I wouldn't say a lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. You know, in the business, it's always hit and miss.
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get. You meet a celebrity sometimes, and you're like, man, what a jerk. Like I always thought they were this great dude, whatever, or great lady, and they're just full of themselves, or they're just on this high horse and everything. But he's definitely one of those that, man, it's all real.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I don't even know how much of it's faked, like on my feeds and stuff like that you see. But, you know, the stories that I've heard and the stories I know, and that's been most of the people that I run into here. Like it's, and most people say you don't want to meet your idols, stuff like that. Luckily for me, I wasn't a big country music fan, so I don't consider them idols, even though there's exceptions, Garth Brooks, Dolly Parton, you know, there's those exceptions of, you know, back in the day who I really would idolize still, regardless of the music. But most of the country people and every country person I've got to meet, you know, I would say meet your idols, because they're great people.
Well, there's a respect too, because you know how hard it is to get where they're trying to get.
Yeah.
Right. And you know the battles that you have to be.
But you also know how hard it is to be on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that's something in the business that a lot of people don't look at. My wife, one of them. You know, my wife doesn't get that part of it. My wife is like she'll be like, hey, we're gonna go to this event tonight and have some fun, whatever. I'm like, man, I'm really tired. And I don't really want to go to this event tonight. She goes, what are you talking about? You don't have to get up and do anything or anything like that. I'm like, yeah, but I have to go.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't go, and I can't be, you know, upset, bored, annoyed Chris Kirkpatrick. You know, you gotta go and be like, hey, how's it going? Everything?
You gotta be Chris Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, because one
and you don't want to
person-
see that, Chris. You don't want to see. No, I've seen it.
Cookies and milk, Chris. Oh, you need me to leave, dude? You're just on my nerves. No, but you know, it really there's a you have to switch it a little bit, and it's not saying that that's not who I am.
Sure.
But also, you know, there are times where I'm sitting at home and I'm just like, let's nobody talk. Let's just enjoy each other's company. Let's just sit in the silence or watch a movie or tell me about your day, or, you know, tell me stories, but don't talk about work. Don't talk about business, because in our line of work or what we do, your world is your business. You know, who I am is my business. It's being Chris Kirkpatrick. It's sometimes they don't want to talk about NSYNC. Sometimes they want to talk about Big Brother. Sometimes they want to talk about Notes for Notes. Sometimes they want to talk about Masked Singer. Sometimes they want to talk about Chip Skylark. You know,
That was really good, by the way, the Masked Singer. That
the
was
Masked
cool.
Singer. Oh man, and I'll tell you, those people are awesome.
Yeah.
Like the production on that is the producers and everybody around it. It was so great to be around, because it was a difficult project. Now I found out, I was sitting with Mitch. Actually, Mitch and I were in Austin. I'd just done a show, and I think it was for his baby shower or something. We all went to dinner, and we were sitting at dinner, and I got a phone call saying, hey, you got Masked Singer? And I'm like, I don't know, I was trying for Masked Singer. And they're like, yeah, well, you weren't really, but you got it. And I'm like, cool. They said, I was like, cool, I'm flying home tomorrow. When do they need me there? They're like, tomorrow? So I ended up having to fly out I flew home here in Nashville, then flew out to LA on Thursday. Friday, I learned what song I was doing, what the mask or what costume was. Saturday, we had the run through. Sunday, we did the show. Monday had already been kicked off. So I was like, it hasn't been a week since I knew I was on the show. I was like, 1 week ago today, I was like, man, I wonder what it's like to be on Masked Singer. Yeah. And here it is 1 week later, getting the whole effect.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I didn't realize it happened that fast.
Yeah, but it happened fast. But it was really, you know, they made it easy. And, you know, they made it fun. They made it nice. And, you know, they're not there to make you look bad. They really want you to look your best that you can look. And, you know, I got me with an amazing vocal coach who is still my vocal coach now because of it. And like I said, all the producers, I will always talk about that show as being very well produced. I went back last year and did they had me come out and throw t-shirts or something, because they were doing like a 90s night, and I came out as the boy band representative. And again, it was just it was great. You know, I woke up in the morning, flew out there, went straight to the set, filmed it. They put me in a car, went back to the airport and flew home. So it was like, 3 hours, I think I was in LA.
Yeah.
Which, no offense, but that's
Fine.
good. That's good for me.
Sure.
There's a lot of things I miss about LA, but a lot of things I do not.
Facts. Well, so, Neil, as we get to the end of this sucker here, one of the things, and I don't know Chris very well, I know CK kind of well now. But
There you go.
You know more about him than I do, actually, after knowing him for many years.
That is not true.
That is not true.
well, one of the things that stands out about him, so obviously, you're one of the stories of the group is that you were like the founder, like the original one, right? That kind of did all those things.
Yep.
He has a knack for knowing like what's going to hit. Like, some people just have a knack for seeing things.
The other 4 guys from the first band, they still live with him at his house. So
yeah, we're still trying to work that out.
He hangs on to things a little bit too long. So, but no.
But it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming.
We've had to get rid of like 3 tour buses for paying for them and nothing happened. But there's eventually our group 5 United is going to make it.
What was the movie with Ed Helms where he was in a boy, but Big Ups?
Big Ups?
Yeah, Big Ups.
Oh,
that
what
was
was
one of
that?
the funny. That was the Live Hard, the Jeremy Piven comedy with Will Ferrell where he jumped out of the plane and he didn't have a parachute. It was a bunch of dildos that came out of his backpack. It was Live Hard, the goods. Live Hard, Sell Hard.
I did
with
not.
Jeremy Piven. You got to see it.
No, I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to see that.
Ed
now.
Helms is in a boy band.
I love Ed
and they
Helms.
rehearse.
I
they're
love Jeremy
rehearsing.
Piven too.
Oh God, it's hilarious. And they rehearse in the in like the service area of the car dealership. And Big Ups is the name of the boy group.
Oh, okay. You know what? I've seen that movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the movie. Like I've seen it out there. I was always wondering what that was. Now I'm gonna have to watch it.
Hysterical. Big Ups.
Big Ups.
Going back to where I was going is that he's like there's a brilliant business mind in there because again, you like everything that you've touched seems to do really, really well. You're really good at picking people and all those things around you. Like, so is that what makes him unique and different?
Touch me. I want to do really, really well.
Get away from me. You're stealing all my mojo.
Well, isn't that what like that's one of his kind of superpowers though? And it's again, I think you understand marketing extremely well. Like again, who I'm talking to right now is there's a lot of folks out there that look at where they're growing up right now and they're thinking that's not for me. It's too far away. And look at all that you just rattled off 10 huge things that you did since you were in the biggest band in the world for a decade and longer. And you guys are still selling records today, all these years later. So you just there's a brilliant business mind in there. You understand a lot about marketing. He understands a lot about quality and what's good when he sees it, right? Would you say that, Neil?
Well, I think when he doesn't understand something, he seeks out the wisdom on it. So I think he's smart enough to realize when he might be a little over his head on something like that, and then he'll turn to someone and he'll gain the wisdom. But he's really good at like connecting with people first and foremost. He connects with people in a way that total strangers or people he's known his whole life. He's got special connections in there too. So I think if you look at Chris and you say what makes him successful, it's the fact that he can read people, he understands people, and then he knows when to ask for help.
It probably takes people a while
fair?
to get comfortable with you. Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it doesn't take people. I
bet it. I probably would just because of who you are and what you've done. So a lot of times folks get nervous or tight. And
that is a weird double-edged sword kind of sometimes because sometimes people are really comfortable, and it is really weird to think about because all those interviews we've done, all the magazines, all the shows, all the concerts, everything we've ever done, there's a lot about us and about who we are. So. And I always look at it like kind of to paraphrase all of this stuff. I think it's because I grew up the way I did, because I grew up with basically, nothing. My mom worked her butt off just so we could, make it, we could survive. I think I appreciate everything, but more importantly, I think that my biggest strength is understanding that I'm a fan first. And then in everything I do, I go, now what would I want? Like what do I want to see? What do I want to hear? What would make me go, oh, that was cool, or oh, that kind of sucked, or oh, that was cheesy, and there's something to be said about that. I think I've been very, very blessed. I've been very, very lucky I'm not saying, not trying to put myself down or say, you know, the talent wasn't there and all that stuff. I mean, I know there was the perfect storm. I know, you know, I know the odds that we beat, you know, I know that, and especially living here in Nashville, I have dozens of close friends of mine that I look at and go, that person is 10 times more talented than I am.
And it's that way in sports too.
Yeah. Always see, you're always like that. You know, I've got family members I've got my uncle Richard, my uncle Jason. I always say they're the best singers in the family. You know, they're the best at whatever. And you just look at it and you go, why was it different what I did? Now, Justin and JC have these voices, right?
Yeah.
And they're great singers, great leads on a lot of the stuff. Very, you know, distinctive sounds in their stuff. And I've got great backgrounds, great high stuff. You know, I do what I do best, and I know where it is. Do the harmony. JC, I'll do JC's harmonies all the time and things like that. But I walk through the airport and I'm like, man, there are people here, you know, singing at Tootsie's in the lounge in the airport that are 10 times more talented than I am. But yet here I am walking around with a record deal and with merchandise and with all this stuff. I'm like, why is that fair? How did that happen? And I just think it was the timing. It was the way it hit, you know. But another thing is that I am very appreciative about that. And I don't go around thinking that, yeah, it happened to me because I'm the best.
Right.
You know, I'm the greatest at what I do. You know, I'm not.
Right.
You know, there are millions, I would say. But I'm appreciative of it, you know, and I understand that how lucky, how blessed I was to have it. And more importantly, how I need to take what I have now and help out somebody that doesn't have that too, you know, because it would have been, I don't think it would have changed anything because again, I thought it was timing that it happened, but I couldn't imagine if somebody would have stepped in when I was growing up and been like, hey, you know, listen, this is what you need to do. Or if you love that, keep doing it. Don't let anybody tell you, you know, you can't make it at that because, you know, I just say, look at me. You know, if I went to school with Justin and JC and we were at this small school, everybody would be like, these guys are unbelievable. You know, you compared to them, you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
You know, but yet here I am starting a band that I bring them into.
That's right.
You know, so it really comes down to the timing and the perseverance and the not giving up. And can't tell you, you know, I had a whole other band before these guys and guys would quit all the time on me. And I remember so many times I'd go to sleep sick in my stomach saying, there was my opportunity and I let it go.
Wow.
But then waking up in the morning going, all right, you had your little pity party. Now let's turn it around. Let's go find somebody to replace that guy. Let's go find this person, or let's go find a sound, or maybe just let's rearrange this song. And the guys that are left here will sing this song and do these things. So I think it was just a perseverance and I always liked having doors closed in my face, because if doors aren't closed in your face and everything's easy, you know, it's like this is a crazy analogy, but it's like I say, sitting on my couch. You know, sitting on my couch has two meanings. Mm-hmm. You know, there are times when I'm home for a week or two at a time, and you know, there's times where I have long stretches where I'm at home. Sitting on my couch feels one way, right? But there's times like last night where I had a show in Rhode Island. After the show, drove to New York so I could get on a 5:00 airplane to be down here in time to do Walker Hayes' golf event and then go home. Sitting on the couch then hits a lot different and it feels a lot better. It feels like, okay, now I'm supposed to be doing this. I worked for this. You know, this isn't just a comfort that I'm taking advantage of. This is a comfort that I need right now. My body's saying, thank you. My body's not saying, you sure there's not something you should be doing other than sitting on this couch right now? My body's saying, there is nothing you should be doing other than sitting on this couch right now. And that's kind of like, you know, how I live my life and how I view things. That, you know, I love the work. My family all grew up blue collar. They all worked at this glass plant in Clarion, Pennsylvania, where I thought I was going to end up working. And, you know, we were just blue collar people. You just work with your hands. I was more friendly with our crew guys than I was with celebrities that came out to our shows, because those are the guys I related to, because those are the guys I am.
Yeah.
Like, I should have been, you know, one of the craftsmen on our show, or I should have been a rigger, or I should have been a lighting guy. You know, I would love touring, but that's my place, working with my hands, not being up there and having people cheer for you. That was weird for me. That's awkward. But, you know, I appreciate it, you know, and I appreciate all that stuff, and I'm very grateful for it. And hopefully, you know, in what I do, that shows that I'm very grateful for it.
And as grateful or as cool a thing as that was, you know, again, I see just from prepping for today and hanging out with you today, again, there's a really, really smart business mind in there, and how much of that, you know, maybe people took for granted because you were Chris Kirkpatrick of NSYNC, so he's a performer, so he can't be the business guy.
But to me, that's weird, because business in my head is almost like knowing numbers, knowing, you know, the right moves to make, knowing how business works. How, you know, business to me is this weird idea of Wall Street or of companies.
Sure.
That's business. That's what I looked at business as. What I do is people, or, you know, because I can't tell you, I think business is following through, and I don't do that.
Wow.
I think business is knowing people, remembering what somebody is. I remember going to dinner with Justin one time, and this guy came over to the table, and Justin introduced this guy. He goes, man, I haven't seen this guy in 3 years. This is so-and-so. This is full name. This is what he does for this company and all that stuff. He walked away, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I got friends at home that come to my house, and I'll go to my wife. What was it? What was his name again? Neil? All right, I got it. I'll get it next time. And, you know, that's important, because, you know, I've read all those books. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. Your name is your most important thing. When you see somebody, call them by their name a lot, because that's what you have. But I don't have that ability. So when you keep saying this business stuff, it's like, I don't understand it. I don't understand that world. My follow through is horrible. If my follow through were great, Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees, that dude is a business dude.
Okay.
That dude, we go out, like, because we do that orchestra thing together, and we run a TV show together. He's one of my best friends on the planet. But we went, last week we were in Columbus playing with the orchestra, and beforehand we went to some radio stations. We walk in this radio station. I'm like, man, this is cool. My road manager was like, yeah, you were here 20 years ago. You wouldn't remember, but you were here. I'm like, oh, that's great. Jeff walks in, he goes, oh yeah, you work for so-and-so, and that's the producer. They still the producer over on that side, and I know they did this because that's how you get the spins, and and I'm like, you still need to get spins? How does this work? Like, I don't even know the business of music. You know, I don't, sometimes somebody tells me, oh yeah, well, we're going to get so many points on this record and so many, and I'm like, you want 3 points? You want 7 points? I don't know. You want 100 points? How are we figuring this out here? How are we working? Because I just don't get business. I appreciate people. I don't know. You know, I'll sit there and talk to anybody. If somebody comes up and they pique my interest and we get along, like, I'll talk all day long. Obviously, you can tell. I like to talk. Yeah. I like listening. I like talking. I like telling stories. So the business thing to me, it's more like I would be in the social part of it. Like, I'm very social, but my follow through is horrible, because my follow through are great. I probably have a lot more than I do now, because all the time people are like, hey, if you ever need this, you know, this, hit me up. I'm like, yeah, cool. I don't hit them up. If see him out golfing the next time, I'm talking to him the whole time, hanging out, having a great time. Hey, don't forget. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot you offered that, but you know, I don't know.
Hey, pardon this quick interruption, but it's a good one. You're listening to this ad right now, which means someone else could be listening to your ad in this exact spot. That's right. If you've got a business, a brand, a product, a podcast, or even just a message you want people to hear, you should be advertising right here on the Hitstreak. This is the moment, the placement, the audience, and you're already hearing how powerful it is. So don't just listen to ads, run one. Go to nickhyder.com/contact-me or click the link in the show notes to get started. Let's put your brand in the spotlight right where it belongs. My last question. This one goes around to the Trolls release. All right, and I'm gonna tell you what I saw, and because I remember obviously as growing up, I was a fan myself. Wife was a fan. My daughter loves the movies, obviously, So here comes the Trolls band together, and NSYNC is going to be in the movie. It's leaked that they're going to be in the movie.
I think you might be going where I was kind of going with it, but go ahead.
All right, let's see. All right, this might get good. So I'm watching this. All right, so here's one of the largest acts ever, and then as hot as they were, they stopped. Okay, and their fan base just got bigger, it seems like, but they didn't go anywhere. So we're waiting. But a generation or two has passed, all right? And it's almost like I'm watching my 4-year-old daughter ask for NSYNC songs, and now she knows all this. So I'm watching this happen. The movie's coming around, then the first track in 20 years, and then there's another one that's coming right after that. And I was like, that was one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen to set up, but more importantly, to invite and capture a new generation like that.
And then do what we did to him the first time.
Overnight. Well,
was that fun? Wasn't that cool? Wait, no, but you mean...
And I know that that's the most common thing you guys get asked. But the only thing I would say is at 44, and again, the Eagles are my favorite band of all time, okay? And when they lost Glenn Frey, it was devastating. So now certain things can never happen again. And as we all get older... when
the Beatles lost John, when it was like,
yeah, that would, and I'm sure that everybody's considered stuff.
You're going to
like
ask him how his health is, aren't you?
Yeah, that's
is that where we're going? Are we?
Yeah, just so you know, I'm going to be the one. Well, I actually this is kind of morbid and it's kind of sad, but I do think about it, and I'm always like, man, that's going to suck. Like they're going to have all these stupid pictures of me on stage. The 4 of them are going to get back together as a memorable, to me, going, oh yeah. He was so cool, lying through their teeth. I hated that dude. He was so annoying. No, I'm just kidding. But
it was just such a brilliant thing, whether it was on purpose or not, on how to. And then the Deadpool thing came right afterwards, and it was like, man, like they're everywhere again, and it was such a cool thing. So again, I know, just speaking for all the fans out there, it's I guess it's just a matter of time before something happens. The little bits and pieces we've gotten were great. Even the thing you did with the DJ at Justin's concert, the VMAs back in 2013 was incredible. You guys looked like you never left a beat. You sound better now than you ever did, I think, too. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I will tell you, I definitely warm up a ton more now than I used to, because I used to be able, you're young. I used to be out partying all night before I go in, and like, yeah, me. All right, I'm good. Let's go. Get on stage. I know what I'm doing. Now I'm like, all right, if you saw I have a bag that I put into my backpack when I get to wherever we're playing, and I empty it out. I've got my humidifier. I've got my vocal pipe thing I use. I've got the straws I'm blowing into water. I've got like just the thing that I put through my lungs, all this stuff just for, a tenth of the time that I used to be on stage. But that's age, and that's also knowing that my voice can't bounce back that quick. And, and I noticed that from after the group took a break, like that I was doing some stuff for like different things, and I go out to sing and I'm like, man, I can't sing this. I'm like, why can't I sing this? I'm like, well, because I'm getting older and I'm still trying to do what I did when I was young, and just think that I could just go out and do it and not have to worry about warming up or not have to worry about all these things. And now I just appreciate the age and appreciate the fact that, it is a lot more work vocally just to be back to where I was.
Well, aside from the risk of losing somebody, I would say, I think you guys, I don't know, how intentional was the Trolls thing with all the other stuff, how to capture that? Was any of that, or was it just, did it just kind of roll out that way? Like, and I'm watching it, I'm a marketing guy, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Well, actually,
when's the tour going to be announced, right?
Actually, where I thought you were going with that was when Justin came to us and was like, hey guys, I got this thing and he's played some music that I've listened to that he's stoked about for future endeavors or whatever. And, you know, it's always been discussed, and us going back out and that stuff's always been talked about. And, you know, but you've got 5 people now with 5 different managers pulling you in 5 different directions.
Oh, yeah. And
not only that, and one thing that I always do say too is you got to remember that we haven't been the band for 22, 23 years.
Longer than you were a band now, right?
Oh, way 10 times longer.
That's
or
crazy.
Twice, at least 4 times as long.
It's crazy.
But the weird thing that you don't realize, and that it's hard to imagine unless you're in my shoes or been a part of it like that, is the fact that not only, so I was in a band, right? I was back in the 90s and early 2000s. I was Chris from NSYNC, right? Mm-hmm. So you talk about NSYNC, you're like, oh yeah, Justin, JC, Joey, Lance, Chris from NSYNC, right? We were all from NSYNC. For the next 20 years, we weren't together. Mm-hmm. But everywhere I went, I was not Chris from NSYNC. I was NSYNC. You know, so I took on the whole genre, every song was me, even though I'm not singing them. Or I'm singing, you know, singing the high parts or singing the backgrounds or doing that. But I took on that, oh my God, NSYNC's here. Mm-hmm. You know, no, it's just Chris. Or, oh my God, NSYNC's here. No, it's just Joey. Or it's just Justin. Well, Justin was Justin. But, you know, so that now you're talking about 20 years of Justin being Justin and JC being NSYNC. And Joey being NSYNC. Yeah. And me being NSYNC. And Lance being NSYNC. So you get us back together, and now you've kind of got, oh, I have to be Chris from NSYNC again. You know, I'm not NSYNC anymore. I'm Chris from NSYNC. And pulling that all together and making that work right. And Justin Timberlake isn't Justin Timberlake anymore. He's Justin from NSYNC. Yeah. So pulling those all together, and then you throw in these wacko managers that we all have that are all over the place, pulling their guy in a better place, and no pun intended, pulling this guy where we think he needs to go, and pulling this guy and doing what's best for my guy and doing all this. You know, it's hard to work it all out again. We're not 5 young kids that were enjoying what we did and going out and performing because we just love to do it. You know, now there's a lot more. Same reason right after the band that it took me I would say probably 20 years to be able to go back out on stage again, to be able to perform, because there was like diamond-sized pressure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not just going out there as this kid who, you know, buddy of mine once said that he used to, like, we went to school together, like, so true, like right after high school, college, and he said the craziest thing about Chris is he has no fear. He goes, I remember he came to me one time and said, hey, I'm learning the guitar. And 4 days later, he came to me and said, hey, come down and see me at the show downtown tonight. I'm playing guitar with this guy. You know, and he goes, he just had no fear. I just go up and do it. And it was true. Soon as NSYNC took a break, all fear. It was all fear, because I'm not that guy who has nothing to lose anymore. Right. I'm that guy that has the ability to screw it up for 4 other human beings. That's right. You know, for me to go out and do something and somebody go, man, I thought the band was better than that. Yeah, that's right. You know, and that's what I always thought of. And that was hard to go back out. And then I was like, you know what? At this point, I don't care. If you judge me or you judge my band on what I do or what you think I am, it's not fair, because what the band was what the band was. Who I am is who I am. And that's kind of what we do. But it's hard to get all those heads back into one room and say, okay, let's take a step back and be a band again, you know, and work your part, be who you were. You know, and you can't do that because we've now been, like you said, not a band for way longer. Yeah. It's crazy when you think about that, isn't it, Neil?
I hadn't thought about it like that, actually. It's fascinating the way you described that right there. I thought you don't fear anything. That's kind of surprises me too about that. Well, but I get it though. I totally get it.
Actually, but it's changed again. Like it's definitely in the last 5 years, even, because even when I first started, you and I first started hanging out, it was there. Yeah. You know, and I can tell you, it was really strange too, because it would be something like I'd be going to visit somebody and they're like, hey, yeah, we're gonna have you jump up on stage with us. I would be sick to my stomach, like going, oh my God, you know what? Oh. I'm thinking about it like 5 days in advance. Okay, we're going there. I'm going to be, if they're going to go up stage, how's this going to work? You know, and now it's just like, you know, I've gotten back to that old, nothing to lose kind of reality of who cares.
Well, I just remember here's the type of pressure he's talking about. The one time we went out and we all dressed silly for your birthday, we went pedal taverning, and we egged him on to the point where he couldn't say no to. He jumped up on stage. The next day, it's on TMZ, and making fun of him.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there like, I could not feel worse as a human being.
That was your fault.
That was our fault.
It was totally your fault.
Our meaning more than one. I don't think
you were kind of General Lee on that one.
No,
No.
Okay.
I hope TMZ makes fun of me one day. That'd be great.
Well, but it's kind of one of those things where, especially in today's day and age, if you can't make fun of yourself, you have to be able to have a sense of humor with it. I mean, I remember we were doing TRL one time and people were out front selling NSYNC hats, right? They were selling NSYNC hats. So Times Square was just packed with kids. So I said, hey, can you go down and get me one of those hats? And I wore it on TRL. And right there, it diffuses anybody who's like, oh, dude, I just bought this NSYNC hat. I'm going to wear it to school tomorrow. And then they're like, now they're going to think that I'm just trying to be Chris Kirkpatrick.
Yeah.
Whereas before they're trying to, look what I did. Aren't I funny? Like, screw those guys, whatever. Now it's like, you just diffuse it.
If I make an NSYNC hat, will you wear it and tag it on your Instagram?
It's already on there.
It's already on there?
Yeah, it's already.
We could make a fortune.
Yeah, somebody just tagged it the other day. Me in an NSYNC hat.
Well, Neil, it's anytime you get to hang out with somebody. Thanks, you've been here. I've kept you here forever. I'm having a blast, man. Well, it's like anytime you get to hang out and talk to somebody that has been able to view the world from the lens that you've been able to do it. It's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
And again, if everybody is wanting to grow up, and when you can talk to somebody that's maybe walked the path you've already walked or gone where you want to go, you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And it's always the fly on the wall thing, right? So Neil is with our time here with CK. With our time with
you
CK,
mean Chris.
That's right, with Chris.
Or after today, Mr.
Chris.
Kirkpatrick.
Man, seriously, I've got here. It can't even be right. It says 70 million records. It's got to be way more than that by now.
I don't know.
It's crazy. It's just insane. Again, as the host, what have I missed? Is there anything I've missed? Is there anything that?
No, he said way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. This went way too long. I don't think you'll get many out of 5 minutes. No,
it'll be look what Chris said about the new kids on the block.
This right. Yeah, people go through the fine tooth comb looking for something. No, he's got so many different aspects that you could go with it.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a multifaceted person who's very interesting when you talk to him, and just about he could talk about anything and do it in an interesting way.
Yeah, and he's done so many things so well. You just rattled off all the stuff. It's just it's crazy, dude. It's crazy, and you literally need 2 days to talk about all of it to get it all out. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you, man. It's really cool. Grateful for the time. Neil helped make all this happen for me. Big Vinny. I was going after Big Vinny next.
Oh, Big Vinny, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Big Vinny gets me for a lot too.
And Brian Poppin as well.
Brian's the one that's my partner in the studio.
That's okay. I didn't know that. So he sat in that chair. He sat in that
Brian
chair.
Did?
He sure did.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, we wrote a song called "Falling" that was on our European album together, me and Brian. I've known Brian a long time.
Dude can play, man. He's good.
He's unbelievable.
He's talented. And what album was that? You guys had a song that did not play here in the States that was my favorite out of all of them. I think it was called I'll Never Stop. I loved that.
I will never stop
yeah.
until you're mine. Yeah, it was a good song.
I love that
track. There was some crazy stuff we did that was only out in Europe that never really came over here. Some of it we released over here, but it blew up in Europe, and yeah,
that one would hit re-released. I'm just saying.
See, I want to hear stories about what happened at the Orlando house when they were at their height.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Finding the right health plan can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Backed by over 12 years of experience and more than 20 national and local awards, Team Hyder is here to help you navigate your options and choose a plan that fits your family's needs and your budget. So whether you're looking for individual coverage, family plans, or even Medicare options, Team Hyder brings expert guidance with heart. Visit teamhyder.com today to schedule your consultation and get the coverage that you deserve. Well, once again,
I want to hear Joey's stories.
Oh man,
he's crazy.
Version 2. Well, Neil, thanks again, for hanging today and helping set all this up. This was great, man. Anytime you can get somebody like Chris on your show, it's a big deal, regardless of the show, right?
For me, it's like hanging with friends, and I'm very fortunate to be able to say that to both of you guys.
Absolutely. So, and Chris, it's great to meet you, man. Obviously, it's an open invitation. Anything that we can do.
You better be careful what you wish for. I'm sure that's what you said to Neil too. And look who's sitting right here.
Hey, let's go.
With an ankle monitor on.
Let's go. Well, anything that we can do to help, man, with anything you're giving back as a Nashville native here, anything we can do to help you out, man, for real.
Appreciate it.
And I mean that. So
Notes for notes.
That's right. Chris Kirkpatrick music.com, right? That's the URL. They can check it. You're going to see a lot about Notes for Notes on there. Yep. Obviously, not that you guys need it, but I am C Kirkpatrick on social, right? So awesome. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Kirkpatrick. Thank you, baby.
CK.
Folks, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.